Welcome to the Talks with Lim Lee show. I'm Lim. I'm a software engineer. I've been doing it for about 15 years. And welcome to Emmett, my co-host.
Sidekick.
Emmett, my sidekick.
Clown show. I'm here to fall on the table like Chris Farley.
Emmett does real estate. He's been doing that for a while. And then I also have Carl with us. Carl is a wine sommelier with the Board of Master Sommeliers.
The Court of Master Sommeliers.
Yeah,
that's the certifying body for sommeliers, and so I'm the certified level. So we call it the second level of that, and I'm currently the wine director for the Golden Steer Steakhouse here in Las Vegas.
Gotcha.
So I run the wine program for them. So we're here today to have an interesting conversation about
wine and crypto,
wine and food pairing, and the cryptocurrency space. And so I thought it would be an interesting day in which to teach some of my knowledge to some of the audience that Lem has, and maybe be able to combine some of these things that we do to increase the pleasurability of our lives. And so wine has been a passion of mine for a couple of decades now. I haven't been doing this professionally for about 5 years. And so there's a few things I've learned, some tricks and tips that make me everyone's favorite, like the guest to invite to dinner. If you're going to have a dinner party, it's great to invite a sommelier over to teach you how to kind of,
that's right,
pair this with that, or how to cook things, or
bring in the pro.
The last time we spoke, I thought it was real interesting where you said that you actually didn't really enjoy wine that much, and then it was through an event at work where your manager said, "Try some." Do you want to just say that story?
Sure. Yeah. So it was about in 2011. I worked for this really great restaurant in New Jersey called the Pluckaman Inn. And in 2011, that restaurant was awarded the Grand Award from Wine Spectator magazine. And at the time, there was only 80 restaurants in the whole world that carried the honor. So it was a really elite place. And there was some affluent wine collectors that had their own bottles that they brought in, which to share with their friends. And there was about a rotating group of 6 guys that would go to a restaurant every month, and so one of them would host it by bringing bottles from their own collection, wrapped in tinfoil, and would serve them blind to all the other guests at the table. And by my amazement, these people were really keen in being able to tell exactly how old it was, who made it, where it was from, and get down to the individual vineyard itself that might only been a couple of acres. And I thought that was a really impressive thing. But at the time, I wasn't really into wine, so to me, it was a little bit like, okay, whatever, it's a foreign language, I don't know, those guys are doing their thing. And so one of my guests stopped me and he says, "Hey, Carl, this is one of those times, man, you got to grab a glass." And I was a little reluctant. It was a very busy evening. I had all these guests to take care of. And I'm looking around like, "I'm sorry, sir, I can't. I got so much to do." And he was very adamant. He goes, "Carl, this is one of those times. You grab a glass, man." And I was like, okay.
This is your chance to drink $1,000 wine or something? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it was the feeling of the guests behind me. I could almost feel everyone looking at me in this exchange between me and this guest. And they're kind of like rooting me on, like, go for it. It's okay. We'll wait
Join the dark side.
Yeah, we'll wait 4 minutes for our, the cup of coffee we're waiting for. And so I put a little bit of this Pinot Noir from Burgundy, France on my palate. And it was from 1964. And it was a village wine, which is kind of one of the more basic styles that they make, but it was so well kept, it was stored perfectly, and just happened to show just incredibly at that moment. Wow. And just like the light bulb went on in that moment, like, wow, this is why people have wine collections, why they have wine cellars, why they pass along their collection to their children, why people do this, and why they've been doing it for centuries and centuries. And it didn't make sense to me until that moment. And then ever since that moment, I've just been chasing that dragon.
You got converted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. In a real instant. And so that's what I want to do with my inn. Yeah, exactly. At the Pluckaman Inn, which is a fun name.
Who's in the top 80 of whiny joints?
It's in the village of Pluckaman within the township of Bedminster, which has a famous golf course owned by the recent President Trump there as well. So there are lots of old money, lots of affluence, lots of it does not matter. You pay whatever you want. The owners of the restaurant, they invented the NASDAQ ticker for online trading. Oh. And so they've retired as billionaires, and this was just a hobby. It was a hobby restaurant to have one of the best world wine collections. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So I was able to work there, and I said, okay, I'd like to pursue this. Where do I go to study wine? What should I do? And my son said, there's 2 places you can go. You can go to Manhattan, or you can go to Las Vegas. And so I looked at a couple of shoebox-size apartment across the river in Manhattan for over $2,000 a month, and I said, I'm going to try the old Wild West. So I moved out here the end of 2012, and I became a sommelier in 2016.
Wait, so in the U.S., you can only become a master som in New York or Vegas? Is that correct?
No, but it's
Okay.
like these are the more established communities to study wine because you're going to need another master in which to kind of guide you along and teach you, like mentorship, if you will. And even if you don't have a master, you're going to have to get together with a core of people in which that'll do it together. Because there's so, like, the amount of information in wine is so vast that no one can know it all. Even if you're a master som, you're still learning every year.
Okay.
And so you have to get
So
together.
you can't be hanging out in Bozeman, Montana.
It's not likely. I won't say anything's impossible. Obviously, the first masters in the U.S. didn't have any other masters to teach you. But you can certainly need a core group of passionate people in which to latch onto and which to pursue it. So, yeah.
And on your right side, unplug the USB thingy.
Unplug this.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully you don't hear it, but you heard her buzzing earlier.
I didn't notice it till. Oh man, this is.
Yeah.
It's like I was underwater, and now
nice. That's nice.
now
You
the
can
water
breathe again.
drained out of my ear. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to?
It's great to have you.
Do you want to introduce what you got here and even the wine over there? And
Wait, I have one question before you proceed.
Please.
When you join the court of Master Sommelier, do they give you a golden sword or anything?
No, that'd be called a saber. And a saber you use to actually.
So there is a sword.
Yes, there is a sword. When the Emperor Napoleon was conquering all of Europe and was going through the Champagne region of France on horseback, they would grab a bottle of champagne and didn't have a free hand in which to open it, so they would pull out their sword and slice off the top of the champagne cork, and this is called sabrage. And so that is a thing that is replicated amongst the sommeliers when we have a celebratory thing. We slice off the top of a champagne and
Is it only certain bottles that works with, or can you do any bottle of champagne will chop?
Yeah, any bottle of champagne will. It's really a sparkling wine that has the extra pressure.
Okay.
The champagne is most successful with it because the second fermentation to create the bubbles happens within the bottle itself.
Yeah.
Where other sparkling wines around the world might be made in different methods, like a large stainless steel tank where they pump carbon dioxide in and then they bottle it under pressure.
Yeah.
And so that pressure is not as, as hard as a champagne bottle would be. So when you go to, you're just asking that cork to come off the end of the bottle. When you have so much pressure, it's like, it's certainly willing, it's like, whoa, okay, cool.
I didn't even think of that. I was just, because it was called the Court of Masters.
Right.
I was thinking like a very old-fashioned swashbuckling.
Yeah, there isn't a sword that's given out, but us independently will find one. And we'll go ahead and take that moment to say, finally made it.
So then presumably there are best swords to be beheading champagne with.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But you're actually right. And then the way you kind of think of it is that the history of wine is really the history of Europe. Yeah. And so if you find something that makes you think of a tradition, it's probably grounded in the world of wine as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry we have derailed you from the...
No, it's all good.
You're a great speaker. You got a great... do you do presentations as part of your work normally? Is that...
just table speaking.
Yeah, it's great.
Each day I go to a table and so I've got speech to give. And so...
Gotcha.
Yeah. So what I wanted to introduce today was kind of some classic wines and then what is a classic food pairing for those wines. So you can kind of get a sense of why these things work. And it really is helpful to get just a basis and understanding of how wine is made before we go into this. And so really you need to think about grapes that are crushed. The juice is then fermented. So there's...
Crushed with feet?
Maybe.
Okay.
Which
is... Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but that is very traditional. And so now they have what's called a basket press. And so basically it's going to press the grapes. The juice comes out. You can decide whether or not you'd like to let the juice have skin contact with the skins, because the color of wine actually comes from the skins itself. If you were to, let's say, crush red grapes and let the juice run off without any skin contact, that juice would be clear. And so you think of a white wine comes from white wine grapes. Well, you can actually make a white wine from red wine grapes as well. And champagne is the basis in that. If you could think about the color of champagne being very lightly colored, well, there's 3 main grapes that champagne is made from, and 2 of them are red grapes. So that's kind of an uncommon thing to make sure you understand. And so there's yeast and sugar. When they combine under the right conditions and the right kind of a temperature, they will spit out alcohol, and they fart out some carbon dioxide.
That's what the yeast does.
Yeah, that's what the yeast does. Gotcha. Exactly right. Yeah, and so they're working hard at this. And so within the finished wine product, the majority of it is water. There's a percentage of alcohol in it, and the other the other components of it can be acidity, and then these impact compounds. And the impact compounds are what give wine its olfactory like aromas, and that's
smell.
Right. So that's how we pick up our flavors, is actually through our olfactory senses. So you can only really taste sweet, sour, salty. There's also bitter and umami. But when you have everything else, you're like, oh, I smell strawberry. Well, you don't taste strawberry, even though you say you taste strawberry. You smell strawberry, and your brain reminds your palate that you're tasting strawberry. And so that's an important distinguish. So within wine, there's water, it's alcohol, there's acidity, and there these impact compounds.
Where do tannins come in?
Yeah, it's also an acidity. This is tartaric acid. Yeah, but they form like larger bonds together, and so they become more astringent. And so you feel them as a textural experience. You can actually feel acidity as a textural experience if it's high enough, like in ratio.
Like the puckering that you would feel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And we'll actually experience that soon.
Is that acidity? Is that actually like eating the meat in your mouth? I don't know. Is it so little that it's just you just feel the tingling, or what is that? This sounds like a stupid question, but I have no idea.
Is the acid melting your tissue?
Yeah.
It's
a funny word we think about acidity, and I try not to use it on the restaurant floor because it's a little bit of a word that people go, acid rain, right? Acid, what are you destroying? Acid destroys things, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about like there's citric acid and malic acid in apples and lactic acid in cream, and there's all these kinds of acidities that it actually works to balance out the richness. If you think of like you're making lemonade and you want to use the acidity, what's the acidity in lemonade? Lemon juice. Yeah. Right? There's water, and then there's sugar, right? So you need the sugar to balance out the acid or the sourness, the sour and the sweet, and that balance to make a finished product. Wine is the same way. It's trying to find that balance between the alcohol, which is the sugar, right? It's been actually transformed into alcohol, and the acidity of it. And it's those different ratios within the finished product that give you the basis of understanding of how to approach food and wine pairing. Because if like acids, and so if you have something that's acidic, it really likes an acidic wine to pair with it. If you think about you have some fish and you want to be able to squeeze some lemon juice on it, having a really crisp and acidic white wine to pair with your fish is that same concept.
Oh, so you stay in the same kind of zone. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same kind of zone for that. And then so contrast, if you think about the opposite, right? So higher alcohol and lower acid wants something rich to match its richness. Because alcohol has more of a glycerin feel in the mouth. So if you were to have like, let's say water by itself, it has a certain mouthfeel. But if you were to put like a cup of water and then some alcohol in it, the texture of the mouthfeel would feel richer.
Right.
And so it's about finding rich with rich and light with light and then acidic with acidic, and all these things pair together. So maybe I'm getting a little too far ahead of myself here.
No, it's good.
But so we brought a couple of white wines and a couple of red wines. And again, I thought about like classics that are representatives. So we're not getting into really obscure things. We're getting into things that all of your audience can find regularly available, right? You can recreate this in your home. This isn't somewhere you have to.
It's for the working class.
Yeah, you don't have to go to my website and order it from me, that sort of thing. You can find it at your local Whole Foods. And so we brought New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc by Whitehaven. This is Sonoma-Cutrer Chardonnay from the Sonoma Coast in California. This is Lopez de Heredia Rioja Reserva. It's called Vina Tondonia. And then we also have Whitehall Cabernet that comes from Napa Valley. And so on the board, we have some acidic cheese. This is goat cheese and with herbs inside. This is a triple cream cheese as well. It's very rich. And then we have a couple of hard cheese. This is Parmesan Reggiano, aged 24 months. And this is a smoked Gouda. And then for the meats on the board, we have, this is an aged and cured salami from Italy that has also been aged in a little bit of red wine called Barolo, which is a small village in the Piedmonte area. That's famous for really great red wine as well. And so that being wrapped in red wine I would certainly lean to that. And then the last of the bottle, we have some, this is Iberico ham that comes from Spain. And there is one kind of like an easy thing to have in your pocket is that the foods that grow together, they go together. So if you think about an Italian wine with an Italian dish, these have been working together for centuries. They grew up around together. Okay. So Spanish Rioja and Spanish ham should go magically, right? And so normally when you think about wine and food, or at least of a meal itself, you really want to start light and then build towards more heavy things as you go throughout the meal.
I think that's awesome. A little bit of that too. Both what food grows together, and then starting light to heavy. Like I don't think I've ever heard anyone just sum it up in 2 quick sentences. So I think your knowledge through the years of working with this, you're able to sum it up pretty nicely on those.
Yeah, we kind of forget that in the last 100 years, we've all become specialists in our little job. And before that, people were all farmers. They grew their own agriculture.
Yeah.
And so they were connected to the farm, to their animals, to the food, everything that they grew. And so they had a vested interest in growing the wine and growing the food so that they go together. I mean, this is history that's just shown in real world.
I know a lot of restaurants, they'll start you with some bread and butter. That wouldn't be light though, right? Is that that'll calm you down while the food's cooking? Kind of strategy.
Yeah, it's really become. I think that's like historical thing too. Is that we think of like the most basic food that anyone would consume. If you were to go to a church in the old days, they would give you bread and water. It's just basic sustenance, right? So it's at least to say, like you're the guest in our restaurant, you're coming in to order a nice meal, but let's say something happens and you have to leave or blah blah. At least you got basic sustenance, right? Here's food and water. Bam, there you go. So you can't leave here hungry. We're not going to let that happen, right? So I think it just starts that way. Really high-end restaurants will try to find that bread option to be a light and airy version.
Okay.
So something that's not like a rich, heavy sourdough. They might go for like a gougere, which is very, it's kind of like a puff pastry, or like a croissant would be. It's very airy and light, and so. While it looks like something that's going to be very rich, it actually is just something to help stimulate the appetite and get you excited for all the food yet to come.
Nice.
But yeah, like starting light and having a little bit of wine really helps your digestive, and it starts to tell your system that, hey, there's food coming here, so get ready for it. And when you do that slowly over the course...
Warm it up, get ready.
Yeah, exactly. Start your engines, all right? We're about to run the marathon here. Like you can have... people always wonder, like, hey, how do the French have a meal for 3 or 4 hours? How can they sit there for that long and eat, Well, they've started light and they've started medium. They go to richer foods and they just like spread it out over time. And it's much easier to do it and have a full meal that way, where there's often guests will come into the steakhouse and they're thinking in their mind, well, steak and potato is going to fill me up. So that's all I'm going to get. And that's what exactly they do. They eat a really rich ribeye. They have a huge baked potato and it's loaded with all the goodies. And they're like, I'm so full. Of course you are. Your stomach is dealing with this rich and fatty food that you just threw down in your gullet, and it wasn't ready to deal with all of it.
But there's always room for cheesecake.
So always room for cheesecake. Well, there's a whole other thing. After working in like hospitality for 20 years, there's a second thing. There's a second stomach called the dessert stomach that's completely separate from the regular stomach.
Get out of town.
Most people are not aware of this, but yeah, there's always room for cheesecake because you have a second stomach that's Exactly. It's hidden from us in anatomy, and only the French knew about it. So,
and here I thought you weren't a salesman.
Yeah, who knew? But yeah, I've definitely had some some tasting menus at a restaurant that have wine pairing to it, and people go, "How could you eat 11 or 12 or 14 or 15 courses?" Yeah. Well, it's that same idea. They're just small bites built up over time, and it's just like, oh, no problem. I find myself
thoroughly.
Yeah. I find myself walking out of a tasting menu going, well, let's go to In-N-Out and get a burger. I'm so hungry. You know what I mean? And most people are like, whoa, how's that possible? So that's kind of it. The other thing we have on our board here, some multi-grain crackers and then some other crackers that I really like as well. These are Muscat Grapes, and then we have a bowl of nuts here as well, just to kind of show how something with a tannins and richness is in this food. Something like a walnut. That's very astringent. That should give you that kind of like the tannic structure. One thing I'd like to do before we get into any of the wine is just to pick a grape and then to peel it.
And complicated.
I don't think I've ever peeled a grape before.
Yeah, so
is there a strategy to this?
Just have as much fun as your company will allow. Just try to keep your clothes on, I guess.
Do I eat the skin or don't eat the skin?
No, I just want to hold on to the skin.
Okay.
Just try to collect just as much as you can of it.
This is not where I thought my day was going.
Yeah. I'm sure they're going to tune in for the rest of the podcast now. They're like, oh, these guys are peeling grapes.
So you should call it 3 guys peeling grapes.
Peel the grape and then eat all the skin? Or
no, don't eat the skin yet. Hold the skin.
Oh. Hold the skin.
Well, I'm going to swallow that.
That's fine. You could do the idea. But the idea is that the tannins in red wine, they come from the skins. And so I just want the skins by themselves so they don't have any of the flesh of the grape to to balance out, help you salivate. And so you have to, with the tannins are starting to dissipate because you've had the grape itself being able to help you salivate and work through that. If they're just the skins by themselves, you can get the tannic structure from them.
We did wash our hands before we sat down. If anybody's cringing at home.
You want to give your story about how your mom used to, because of Vietnamese culture and the grapes peeling and how your dad used to eat it?
Good. I don't think it has anything to do with this, but
it's an interesting story.
You can edit out whatever you want.
Yeah. So my dad went over to Vietnam during the war as a linguist and translator. Met my mom and fell in love. Brought her back to the States.
He was the Irishman.
Yeah, he's Irish American. Yep. Cool. South Side Chicago. Yeah.
The grape or the
just the skins itself.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Emmett.
Itself. Eat the skins now?
Yep,
I'll tell the story, yeah.
The skins now. And you just kind of want to just move them around in your palate a little bit, and you want to, I like to try to chew them up very finely and just push around your palate. These as Muscat grapes are not as tannic or as thick-skinned as some of the other red grapes you might get for table grapes, so it might not be as obvious. But at least that dry mouth, astringent feeling that you'll get from just the skins themselves. And so...
I feel that.
Right?
Yeah.
Cool. These...
I think I'm getting old. Like, I don't get the certain...
No, but you want a super pucker is what you're looking for.
Yeah. He's put me on this task of like, how do we find that super pucker moment? Because he loves it.
Is there a technical word for that in the Somm world?
Just astringency.
Okay.
Yeah. These are tannins. They can be really fine grained or really coarse, and he's just looking for coarse tannins. And,
my mom came from Vietnam to the States, and grapes were at that time a super delicacy in Vietnam. Like, where do you get a hold of some grapes?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right.
So she was peeling the grapes to enjoy them each as their own delicacy.
Nice to savor.
Yeah, and she had
that's cool.
She had a bowl of grapes. And she had never been to a U.S. supermarket before. It's more food than, and you don't know the conversion yet or anything. So she's there peeling her one grape, and then Uncle Brian comes home and he goes, "Hey, grapes!" and grabs a handful. What are you doing?
Ruined the entire day's work. That was my moment.
Yeah, because in her mind, that's like
now, which she's peeling all the grapes, and she has a bowl of grapes that are peeled, and she's going to eat all the ones without the skins on it.
I don't have the exact.
Okay.
But the idea.
I used to do that when I was a kid. By the way, I used to do the same
thing. Peel the grapes.
I think for the Vietnamese culture, due to the poverty during 1975 and whatnot, so because the skin is so bitter. To enjoy the grape, it was peel it all, and then in her case, she was going to get a pile of peeled grapes and then enjoy it all afterwards. So they don't even eat the skin because it's so bitter. So the enjoyment is that sweet interior.
I love it.
But
That's
also
great.
just value-wise, to her, it must have represented some astronomical, like this is probably several $100s worth of grapes in her mind.
Yeah. Because it's a high-end commodity. So.
Yeah, so that adjustment from two different worlds, I guess, is the part of that story that makes it fun. She still hasn't adjusted. She's still very rooted in a lot of Vietnamese thinking.
It's funny as I get older. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but as I get older, I'm just constantly reminded of the little things that I take for granted.
Oh yeah.
There's just so many things I'm constantly reminded of. That's like, well, yeah, not everybody has that like I always have. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, and you just got to step back and be thankful for all the things that you have.
Yeah, like this. This looks.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what kings had in the past.
but in France, they're like, oh, this is a bad board. This doesn't have anything on this.
bullshit.
You know what I mean? There's no brie here. There's no
Have you done any French study? My French, I can't. I've never studied French, and I can't pronounce a damn thing. So I'm not making fun of French at all.
Yeah.
But I will struggle.
That was my language I chose in high school. I studied for 2 years, and I can't speak a lick.
Your accent is good at when pronouncing French things, I guess.
For French wine speak, yeah. Absolutely. Okay. It's funny because my uncle had done some family history study when I was young and traced our family line back to Normandy in France. And so for all my adolescence, I was under this perception that I am French. I come from French things.
Yeah.
So it's in my interest to at least take a liking to French stuff, right?
Sure.
Here I am, France.
That worked
out. So fast forward to like 2014.
Yeah.
I have another cousin that did some more in-depth study and found out that we're actually Scottish or from Scotland.
Oh, that ended up in France somehow?
Well, actually, it was from France before they went to Scotland.
Okay.
But there really isn't any like historical significance of the French family. We have so much more knowledge of the Scottish family.
Gotcha. But French food is generally better than haggis? Is that the...
Generally, you know, generally.
Well, I mean, that's cool because then you can bathe in both cultural heritage, right?
Yeah, indeed. And then I just enjoy talking with the French accent. It's kind of fun, you know. It feels kind of like snooty, and everybody has no idea how to pronounce anything. So it's like if you have at least an inkling.
Did you ever see?
They say you got to fake it till you make it, you know.
Did you ever see a Cheech and Chong movie called The Corsican Brothers?
I didn't see that one. No, I think it was the other. Up in Smoke is the other one. Up in Smoke is that?
Corsican Brothers is different in that it's like it's not two potheads. It's like set in the French Revolution. So it's a decent movie.
Okay.
Like they're not Cheech and Chong in the movie. Well, kind of, but they're not two LA potheads. So
I got to check that out then.
Yeah, it's funny.
I like that Lem is going to spend the next 3 hours just peeling grapes so he can get that full feeling and do a whole mouthful of skins. He's just going to go for it.
I was just going to ask you, am I going to overdo it with two grape skins? Like,
I think for you, we should double whatever the doctor orders.
You're going to blow out your palate, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I might go to the store and get some different kind of grapes just out of like some thicker skins.
All right, you could continue on the other items.
Well, so these are Muscat. Is that Moscato? The same?
Exactly.
Okay, and
Yeah.
those are typically sweeter.
Yeah.
A sweet white wine? Is that
right?
A fair way to generalize?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So when you get a Moscato, it's going to be, they made it without the skin, as you were saying earlier, right? Is that...
Right. This didn't have any
deduction.
skin contact.
Okay.
Yeah, the juice was pressed and separated, and they went into a big tank, and then they fermented it. And then for Moscato, it has that other way of making sparkling wine. It's not a full sparkling wine from Moscato d'Asti. That's what the Italians call frizzante. For full sparkling is spumante. You've probably heard of spumante before, right?
Dean Martin songs, right?
Yeah. So that's the Italian word for sparkling, and so semi-sparkling is frizzante. And so they have this big tank, and they pump carbon dioxide, and they bottle under pressure, and that's where you get the fizziness from Moscato.
Nice.
But yeah, there are more species of Muscat grapes than there are of any other grape. Okay. So the majority one we have is called Muscat Appetit Appetit Grand, okay. And it's the most prevalent one. But there are easily 30 more versions of Muscat that are not made for it. There's Black Muscat, Muscat Autunel, Muscat Alexandria. So many different ones, and they're all used for different things. So, but the one that we're familiar with, is Muscat. That's Blanc Appetit Grand, which is small berry white.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about grape bunches is a small berry or a small grape in that bunch didn't get to ripen fully, and so as a grape is very small, what does it taste like when it's really small?
I don't know. I go for the biggest grapes.
All right, but on the off chance that you caught one of that tiny one, how is it so different from all the big grapes?
Is it less sweet?
Right, but it is more
astringent,
more sour,
Yeah, because it's not ripe yet.
Right. So it's jam packed with acidity. As grapes ripen, they trade in that acidity for sugar.
Okay,
and so it's actually not exactly like that. It's during the daytime, when it goes through photosynthesis, it's transforming that acidity into sugar. And then at nighttime, if the berries don't cool down enough, they continue to synthesize. And so it actually loses acidity at the nighttime. But if it shuts down at the nighttime from cold temperatures, then it retains all the acidity at nighttime. And then during the daytime, when it goes back to photosynthesis, it starts to do its work again. And so the most balanced wines in the world are always from places that get plenty of sunshine during the day, but cool down at nighttime.
Oh.
So if you have a really, really hot place, let's say like Temecula, or like even Paso Robles.
Well, Temecula grows wine, right?
Right.
But you're saying they're not ideal because...
Well, it's not necessarily that's not ideal, but it's just, I think it's an important distinction to understand that grapes in warm climates grow differently than grapes in cold climates.
Yeah, somebody was just telling me in New York is an underrated wine growing area.
Yeah. Upstate New York makes fantastic Riesling, and then also Long Island itself has a few different areas that are growing wine and have some good wineries.
Interesting.
In fact, every state in the union grows and produces some amount of actual commercial wine. So every state.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Montana, go.
Yeah. There are just there's some people that come to the restaurant and tell me that Michigan is making great wines. Sort of thing. So I mean, I don't know. Also Virginia, the northwest part of the state of Texas, making great wines up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you know great wines through blind tasting. Is that the measure?
So there's a few different parameters that I think when you kind of determine quality.
Yeah.
And the basic one is your actual experience, what we call the finish. Mm-hmm. That is, when you're tasting the wine, how long do you continue to taste the wine after you've swallowed it? And if it's like for 5 or 10 seconds, that's a relatively simple wine. But if you have something that goes on for a minute, then you're like, wow, the flavor's still there. That's really, really incredible.
I've never thought about this. I'm always stuffing the piece of steak in my mouth next. Chewing on the flavor.
I can't wait till we get to steak and all that, because I got some lessons to help. I'm going to blow your mind on that aspect too. So let's see. What was I saying? Lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I'm totally derailing you.
No, it's okay. It's all right. That's what it's for.
It's my chance to grill a sommelier.
So grapes, acidity and acid, and the alcohol, and just understanding that from a cold climate, it's going to be more acidic and less alcohol. And when you go to a warm climate, it's going to be higher alcohol and less acidity. There are things that that winemakers can do. Let's say that you don't have enough like actual sugar. You can add sugar into the blend. This is called the chaptalization. It is kind of like frowned upon for high quality wine. But it's something that can be done to make sure that you have a finished product. There's also this thing about like manufactured wine and like natural wine, or
what's the main distinction? Because to me, they're all made somewhere, right?
Right. And so if you're a brand, you want to make your wine taste the same every year.
Yeah.
But Mother Nature doesn't give you the same weather every year.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to use some technological advances in which to make it as much like it was the year before. There's some other areas that say, we're not going to add anything, and then we're just going to respond to Mother Nature. So we have a good vintage and a bad vintage, and then let's say in the small vintage, we're going to have some tools at our disposal to just make less wine than we would in a great vintage. But that's their way of approaching it, is saying, okay, this is a rough year. I can see that the vines are going to struggle being able to ripen all these grapes fully. So about halfway through the season, we're going to come through and we're going to cut half of those grape bunches off of the vine. So all the energy that the vine has is going to go into just the last couple of bunches and make sure that those ripen fully.
Interesting.
Where if it's if you
cut your losses.
Exactly. You want to make sure that you have a quality product that you make, even though it's going to be a lot less of it.
Yeah.
So then what does that do to prices?
It goes up, right?
Right. It has to go up because...
Wait, so you pay more for the rough year?
Well, it's kind of a funny thing in wine. It's a double-edged sword, and they're so good at marketing for us. You can say, well, guys, I'm sorry, it's been a really difficult vintage. We didn't have enough grapes this year in which to meet up demand. The prices have to rise.
Yeah.
Next year, hey, this was a remarkable vintage. You guys are going to get in on this one. It's the best vintage we've done since we opened. The prices are going to rise, and so they're really keen at playing the victim and playing the superstar every year, in which to kind of say, well, we'll just bump it up a little more.
That's right. That's a good way to stay in business, right?
Yeah, it surely is a great business model. You can understand why people would be movie stars or that sort of thing and invest in wine. They'd have a winery they would own. It's they've been doing it for centuries, and there's a reason why these are established.
Yeah,
for sure. What do you think? Should we try some wine?
Yeah, let's do it.
I can feel you getting thirsty. All right. So we're going to start with whites first, and then we'll move to reds.
I may get crazier as I drink.
I hope so. That's what Lem had promised me. I just didn't know. Yeah. All right. Sauvignon Blanc.
Thank you, sir.
Which, if you're French, you're... I'm not talking
Do,
about
do you twirl white wines the same
Yes.
as a red? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of the game here.
That's okay. No, it's perfect. During fermentation, alcohol compounds, they bind together with acid compounds and form those impact compounds that we're talking about.
Impact, okay.
Yeah, and sometimes they act as preservatives. Those are called esters. And what you're trying to do when you're swirling a glass of wine is you're agitating those esters. You're breaking them apart. And when they get broken apart, they release more of their aromas. Okay. So that's why you see those crazy wine people just sit there the whole time, just swirling. Right?
Be careful on the this mat.
He'll move out sooner than you.
For podcast listeners that can't see visually, there's a
there's a second cloth here.
There's an awesome tablecloth with the logo on it, and if I spill a wine on there, then the logo will have it'll look bloody.
And currently I don't have a backup, so.
We're early days in this podcast.
Just adds character, man. I don't know why you're complaining. You know, it's like abstract art. We can make a whole thing out of it.
I would say it's don't worry about it, except the very last I knocked over my water just last podcast, so I'm clearly not qualified to.
He's still recovering from that.
Yeah. All right. When swirling and then smelling it, does that good, bad, or what would you suggest on that?
Yeah. So it's
smells like wine.
I think it's a bunch of S's. So the first one is sight. You just want to get a sense of the color. Is it opaque? Is it transparent? And does it have any flints of reflection? Is there it's closer to like a copper reflection, a green reflection, a silver reflection? Right? You can almost get like some hints of green here.
I foolishly was fiddling with my glass while Carl was talking, and I put my fingerprints all over this glass.
Nice.
That's all I can see.
Yeah, that's another reason why we have stemmed glasses is that you don't want to put your fingerprints on the bulb itself. And then the other part is that if you do that, your like the heat from your body will warm up the temperature of the wine. And so we want to hold on to the stem just to keep your body heat away from the wine.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So then the next thing is to smell. New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc jumped on the scene in the 80s and the 90s as being really affordable, but then showing like incredible characteristics of Sauvignon Blanc that the other areas of the world, they had to try really hard to get this expression.
Oh.
They tend to be notes of like tropical fruit and citrus. So there's probably like grapefruit here, probably lemon, and then you get a lot of tropical notes like star fruit, maybe kiwi.
So to clarify for our listeners, these are not fruits that are in the wine, but in trying to describe the flavor that you're tasting.
Yeah, precisely.
You might reference these other fruits.
If you were to look about like the chemical compound of those fruits that are within the wine, they would have the same chemical composition of the wine itself.
Oh, that I did not know.
Right. So if you have like malic acid in a sharp green apple, and then the wine has malic acid, it's going to taste like green apples. Right. So it's the same.
Science, bitches.
Yeah. Woohoo. So yeah, get a smell of it. The other impact compound for Sauvignon Blanc, and actually a neat little thing for most of the listeners to know is that a Cabernet Sauvignon is the child of a crossing between Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Franc, which are two grapes that came together and made a baby of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Like you crossbreed the vines? Is that the idea? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And so
I can see if anybody's interested in wine that they would really dig this particular podcast. You're
cool.
You're a great source. This is
thanks, man. I've gone down the rabbit hole pretty far. I've gone pretty far. I got lots of books.
Sorry, go ahead.
The other thing for Sauvignon Blanc, the impact compound is called pyrazine. It's pyrazine. And
pyrazine.
Yeah, this gives you green bell pepper, grass, maybe notes of jalapeno. There's something herbal going on here, right? Do you smell the herbaceousness? Do you smell the grass or
Well, so full disclosure, I have a terrible sense of smell. I have a low sense of smell, which I wonder, does it keep me from tasting things as much as other people do?
So I thought about that myself for a long time as well.
To Emmett's defense, he really does. Like, there's been times where, like, if we're hanging out, when we're hanging out, if someone put something in the oven for too long, he'll be the last person to smell that.
Oh, yeah, really? It's like,
yeah. It's not that
the house is on
smell
fire, and you're like, no, it's fine. Just barbecue.
It's not that I can't smell stuff. I'm not going to detect it first. I'm going to go last.
Okay. There are a small percentage of the population that happens to. And also conversely, there's a small portion of the population that are super tasters. And I am not one of those. So I felt for the longest time that there's no way I'm going to get this, that I don't have the tools that other people do. And so I thought I had a deficiency.
Yeah.
And, you just have to keep doing it.
So your nose is your tool.
Right.
And then you just get better and better at using it.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly. And as you do more, there's more tastings with other people. And so when, let's say I say that it smells like grass or jalapeno or any of that, and it might resonate with you. And so if you're like, oh, that's what that smells like, and then you start to register that that note and connect it. So then you smell it again later on in something else, you're like, oh, I remember this now. It was Sauvignon Blanc, and it was described as this way.
Yeah, you're literally training.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So it just takes time, and if you feel like you're not getting it, it's okay. It's totally okay.
I would say I feel like my sense of smell is fairly decent, but when I hear people speak about wine, that's where I feel like I'm not as good as they are. Meaning, like, I feel like my smell, my sense of smell is pretty good. Like, if Marielle happens to be cooking something, you hear me sometimes say, "Hey, is that soy sauce? Are you cooking pork and soy sauce?" Like, I'll try to break that smell apart and try to decipher what it is. But when I hear people speak about wine and when they talk about what they smell, I feel like I'm never close to what they're. Not that I think maybe my nose palate for those specific smells aren't dialed in. Maybe.
Sure. Well, how many times have you had soy sauce and pork in your life, and how many times have you had a glass of wine?
Yeah, that's probably true.
Seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really just about doing it 100,000 times.
Okay.
You know?
That's actually really awesome that you say that, because I thought maybe I had the deficiency towards wine on that. So okay.
No, it's just the amount of times
wine
you've
is your
had
friend.
wine. And, wine is your friend, and it should be used as a tool. It really is. Wine is produce. And it should be thought of as produce. Like, you're going to like the grocery store and you're picking out your produce for all your food you're going to make, and you can go to the protein section, you get everything you need. Wine is also something that should be handled the same way as protein was. The
produce,
exactly the same way as produce should be. It needs to be stored under 80 degrees. It will cook and turn bad if it's in the wrong condition. Just like if you leave some spinach out backyard, and it will wilt and it will die. So the same thing will happen to wine.
Gotcha.
It's very much alive. So then the next thing we have to do is just put it on the palate and taste it. And I'd say the first thing I would say is, you're going to approach yourself this, like to think of it as like a mouthwash. You want to swirl it around all of your mouth, so you get in contact with each area, the top, the sides, the roof, under the tongue, just everywhere. Make it everywhere.
I can do that. I'll talk while they're swirling for our just listeners. Carl's making a fun swishy face right now. He actually looks like a mouthwash commercial. Did you do a blowout there or no? Oh, okay. A slurping, like a puckered lip slurping deal.
So I'm drawing air into the palate at the same time that I'm swirling it around. So it's just kind of like I'm adding air into my mouth at the same time we're trying to swirl the wine in the glass. It's like doing that. You're just drawing some air. And so because of that, it's just like really, really opening up. Yeah. But also be careful. You could choke if it's not done right.
Well, because you're sucking air in, and the alcohol fumes go into your lungs.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
And the first thing I want you to notice is if you lift up your tongue a little bit, notice how much you salivate.
Yeah. Right.
It's watery. There's a lot of salivation going on. Right.
Mm-hmm. Is that typical of all wines, or Cabernet Sauvignon especially?
Well, this is a white wine called Sauvignon Blanc.
Sorry, Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah.
And so that is typical from the wine grown in a cool climate.
Okay.
Right. So that the acidity is the sourness is the lemon juice. Right. And so with a wine from a cool climate, you're going to get more acid. It helps you salivate. It also keeps the palate fresh. So wine from like a cool climate they tend to be more food friendly across the board because it is helping your mouth, like create its own salivation to deal with all the food morsels on your palate, so you can go ahead and swallow.
So I grew up in San Diego and I'm now in Las Vegas. When you say a cool climate, is that like San Diego or cooler? Because to me, the East Coast is cold and Europe is similarly cold.
Right.
So when you say cool climates, what's a good way to kind of designate that?
So the range of latitude where grapes grow is between 30 and 50 degrees on the parallel line.
Okay.
So the 30 degree is the cool climate. The 50 degree is the hot climate. Outside of those bands, it's very difficult to get grapes to ripen like at all.
Huh.
And
so we'll never have a Thailand wine.
Not likely.
Okay. Sorry, Thailand.
I mean, that being said,
Vietnam, Thailand,
that being said, I also said that Dogecoin wasn't going to rise, and so these things happen as well. So
crossover, baby.
Like the people and the innovation that's coming. Who knows? You'd have a greenhouse if you can make the environmental conditions in Thailand to be.
They have a lot of malls, so if they start growing grapes in the malls.
You put like a screen on the roof, and you go ahead and put the grapes where people would walk, and they could do it. So it's like I never want to be like absolute. You never want to say, well, it's definite. Well, I've gotten in trouble with that enough times in my life to know that definite is definitely not the thing you want to say.
But generally, equatorial countries are going to struggle.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Exactly. Just too hot to make like the balanced fruit.
What about like Costa Rica has a mountain range in the middle where it gets pretty cool. Would that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. There are other contributing factors that go ahead and do that. The ocean, as you probably know from living in San Diego, is also a big mitigator of heat, right? The ocean comes off, it cools down the area every day.
Cool breeze. Ocean breeze.
There's also what's called the rain shadow effect. So you think about the mountain range along the western coast of the United States that goes from like Washington even up to Canada and goes all the way down like to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Right. That whole area is blocking the moisture from the Pacific Ocean. It gets hit into those mountains and then it's drier on the eastern side.
Yeah, that's why we're so dry in Vegas, because I think there's like 7 mountain ranges between.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
The ocean and us. And
so that also contributes to the areas that are just east of mountain ranges in which to be a dry climate. When you're growing vines, you kind of want the roots to struggle a bit so that they can search down deeper to find water.
Oh.
And the longer those roots are, the more minerals and more things they're coming in contact with to give the grapes everything that they need.
It's like you don't want to spoil your children.
Yeah,
exactly. Make them work for it.
Through suffering comes enlightenment. It's exactly the concept.
Is that? Yeah. I just remembered. Is there a winery in Pahrump?
There is.
What say you, in terms of location?
Well, full disclosure about Pahrump, the majority of their wine production is purchased grapes from Lodi.
I thought you were going to say full disclosure, Bunny Ranch or something.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good story's about to come up.
My nephew's the owner of it. So no.
Pahrump is a little town just outside of Las Vegas, and it is infamous for being the closest place you can go to find some brothels or fireworks that are illegal in Las Vegas.
Or a racetrack.
So
there's fun.
I've done the wine tasting at Pahrump Valley Winery a couple of times, and I have yet to purchase a bottle to take home.
Okay, but generally they're bringing in grapes from different regions.
Right. They do have a couple of acres on property that are planted to Syrah and Zinfandel, so they do produce some, but the majority of their production all comes from purchased grapes in California.
Nice.
Yeah. But they have to grow some on their property itself to say, as a Nevada winery, we go ahead and produce wines in the state.
Well, plus it would suck if you visited and you didn't see any grapes around.
Yeah, exactly. Those are just the
just a wine factory.
Yeah, they're just like the dummy grapes. They're just out there on the vines for show. We just keep those out there, just keep everybody calm.
I figure those roots are really struggling. They're really digging. Out here in the desert.
So there's a lot of vineyard managers will choose not to irrigate because they want those vines to struggle.
Yeah.
And so all of Napa Valley itself is all dry farming. There isn't anybody that irrigates that area.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, exactly. Because it has the river that falls through the center of the valley, the Napa Valley River. And and so it supplies everything that the valley needs.
Nice.
And so, that's one of the areas. And so if you have an abundance of water nearby, you might not get grapes that are of enough generous flavor. They could be watery. That same thing happens when you go to harvest the grapes for the season, and they're watching the weather reports. If it's going to have a big rainstorm right before harvest, all of those grapes will be waterlogged, and the expression of the finished wine will be definitely diluted. So that's why in some areas that focus on making natural wines, if the rain is coming, they'll get everybody going to harvest the grapes.
Pull them early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what do you think that does if it didn't get a chance to fully ripen?
We got smaller grapes now, right?
Yeah. And then like they're on the sour side of things too. So it's like, how do you figure out how to balance this out, right? So it's actually a miracle. That's a miracle every year. Yeah, it's a miracle every year that we even produce wine.
Yeah.
But somehow,
But that's how you get those special years when all of the conditions are just perfect, right?
Exactly.
That's the
exactly. And then there can be the modern versus a traditional movement within a wine region itself. And so let's say there's some people that might want grapes to ripen a little bit more fully. And so they're not worried about the rain coming because they're not going to pick for another month anyways.
Yeah.
Where the other guys who like to do a little bit on the underside of things, they're going, they're going like on a frantic side, trying to figure out how to get all this done right now. So it really just, there's so many variables. There's so many variables.
That makes it a very fun art, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like your canvas can change every year, and then you don't have the paints you did last year. So let's make a whole new painting for this year.
Unlike Coca-Cola.
Unlike Coca-Cola, the exact same finished product, or a Budweiser, or even like a vodka. These are all the same product that you're going to get year after year.
Hey, have you heard of a thing called a Kalimoto? I think I was just someplace I went to. So half Coca-Cola, half red wine. For as a younger dude, it was tough for me to drink wine, and I was drinking like 5 or 6 Cokes a day. And so if I did a half Coke, half wine, like, I can do this. It was a baby step. I know I just insulted your whole profession by suggesting throwing Coca-Cola.
I've already come in contact with this. I just didn't know what they called that. Yeah. And so I worked at the MGM Grand for a little while for Wolfgang Puck. And I had some guests from South America that came in, and they bought a bottle of Opus One, which is a cult wine from Napa, and it's on the list there for $800.
That's a high-end special.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's a collaboration with Robert Mondavi, as well as the Rothschilds in France. And so the two collaborating together for their wine empires to make this finished wine. And it's still one of the most the cult wines that have this crazy following, that people only drink Opus One, and that's it. So, but anyways, yes, they asked for, like a bottle of Opus One. They wanted a side of Coca-Cola, and they wanted a side of ice. And when they combined all these things together, my heart sunk. I was what are you doing? And it's that day that you really have to step back and be humble with like the sommelier position, that I'm just here for guidance. It's their bottle. They can do whatever they want with it. If they want to pump it over their head and just take a little Opus One shower, cool, man. Good for you. Good for you, man. It's your bottle. Do whatever you want.
At least they were consuming it.
Yeah, exactly.
With their Coca-Cola.
But that what really got me is when they ordered a second bottle, and they did it to the next one too. So it's not one bottle, but 2 bottles of Opus One for the evening. It was a $4,000 check for a party of 4, and I was like, man,
yeah. Wow, I would recommend, if you're going to do that, you don't want the Coca-Cola off of the soda gun. You want to get like a can or a very controlled source of Coca-Cola. To me, the Coca-Cola in the can is the best. If you get it off the gun, you have a lot of inconsistency between the syrup pack and the carbonated water mixing inside the gun. You're going to have a flat or a less syruped.
With a $100 wine.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, just so the listeners know, I don't condone that. I will not be partaking.
Try not to do it in front of your sommelier.
Yeah, I will not be doing that.
It hurts their hearts.
Yeah. And it's funny because a person in my position has this, like this presumption that they're going to be like rude and snobby and presumptuous, and so it's important for us to kind of stay humble and to approach people with obviously your experience is very different from mine, and so where I've come to me on my journey, you might be somewhere else, and so it's my job to kind of figure out where you are in your journey and then help you on to that next step, even if it's in a place where I have never gone.
Well,
You know?
Kind of feels like when I give crypto advice or financial crypto advice, I tell people what to do and they go buy some Dogecoin or something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's good to be welcoming and inviting instead of exclusive, right?
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
So that seems like a good approach.
But it's very challenging because you're still a wine waiter, and there's still this thing in our society where if you work at a restaurant, you're not a real professional. Like you're there to serve me, and so I don't talk to you as if you're a professional with knowledge that's going to help me.
Are you talking about snooty guests, snooty diners?
95% of guests,
Yeah.
even wine lovers that know how to act, still treat you as if you're a servant.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a tough pill to swallow while I'm there to help educate and assist you in helping you increase your pleasurability. You think you'd want to give that person respect.
Yeah.
But instead it's more of a, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care what you have to say. I do what I want, kid. That sort
There
of
is
thing,
a weird thing about getting rich and spending a lot of money on alcohol is that there's a snooty element or a condescension
Yeah.
that I don't understand.
I mean, and so that being said, I've also had the complete opposite experience too, right? There are some people who have found out that I am a wine expert, and they want to hear me talk, and they're willing to go out of their way to share things with me that I wouldn't be able to purchase on my own.
Yeah.
I've definitely had that experience too.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So as much as I want to complain of that, maybe of late, historically, it's been more than a generous thing that I could have ever asked for. People have been
The pluses outweigh the minuses.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I have some affluent wine collector friends that they regularly open $1,000 bottles.
Lim wants to eat. He's like, shut up.
Yeah. So we need to get into this stuff here a little bit. So with New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, we've already realized there is a good acid profile to it, and it's also a little bit green. There's a little bit of greenness to it, and so the really fun thing to pair it with is goat cheese, which is an acidic cheese in the world of cheese, and it's also mixed with herbs. So yeah, I'm going to take a little cracker, a little bit of
Do a thing.
the goat cheese on there, and then
Goat it up.
you're going to want to have a little bit of wine on your palate first, just to kind of switch around and get your mouth ready for that.
Okay.
And then just throw the cracker in there and work all that through. And then after you've kind of, let's say 80% have worked it through your palate and swallowed it, and there may be some morsels still left, let's have another sip of wine and then just see where it comes alive.
Okay, so I do that almost exactly what you just described. I do that with red wine and steak. So is
Perfect.
that okay?
Yep.
I kind
Perfect.
of I found that on my own, as in I kind of went online, tried to search on just how to enjoy it more and get the astringent flavors and whatnot. But on my own, I just started testing out drink a little bit, eat a little bit, drink a little bit. And I found kind of exactly what you said. Just have a little
Sweet
bit.
spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a song and dance between wine and food. And it happens to me all the time. I recommend a wine for someone and they'll be like, oh, my steak is here. And they eat the entire steak and they look up and they're like, oh yeah, there's a glass of wine. Well, I don't need dessert. I have a glass of wine. And you're
That's
like, oh, you missed the entire experience. You should
Yeah.
have a little sip every once in a while in between those bites. And that really would have just made things completely different.
This particular Sauvignon Blanc, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said there's a different duration of how long it lasts on your palate. How many seconds would you give this one? He's checking his watch.
Yeah.
Still going.
Yeah, it's probably maybe up to 15 seconds.
Oh, that's a good run.
Well, this is the thing about New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. It is the only wine that I will buy in a grocery store. It is of world-class quality, but it is at a price point that is very affordable.
I'm going to let you guys proceed to eat, and I'll chatter.
Go ahead. So
Because there is some population of our podcast listening audience that is not visual. They're visually impaired.
All right.
go ahead. I just finished wine. So that was amazing, actually. Now, I would say going from the wine, having a little bit left, taking the goat cheese was fantastic. Adding the wine slightly thereafter wasn't as amazing as the wine to the goat cheese, if that makes sense.
Yep.
There's the wine itself is like a sweet I don't know, a sweet vinegary sour or something. I don't know how to describe that part.
No, you're right.
And then you add that goat cheese in it. This creamy, fantastic. Where I could actually decipher both flavors. Where there's that sweet sour wine, and it goes to this creamy, cheesy goat cheese, and it's fantastic. I'm actually really surprised I was looking at the brand. I was like, oh wait, how much? This is a cheaper brand. Is this a cheaper brand?
Yeah.
I was totally being judgmental. I was like, oh, this one's not going to work that well. But heck, man, that was awesome.
Good, right?
Yeah. So you know all the grocery store brands? Is that the?
He's been doing his research all day. He's like, Sommelier is coming over. I'm like, I need to figure out what's going on here. I need some experience. He's going on the website.
Oh, actually, wait.
It crashed 3 times earlier when I went to visit it.
Oh, no. I'm mixing up the name with the different one. Okay, so no. Sorry, I mixed it up with the different one. Yeah, I thought it was that one. But, sorry, I thought it was this one. But we're drinking which one?
That one.
Okay, yeah. I mixed up the name with the different
Whitehaven.
one. So maybe that one's a better brand than what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Whitehaven.
Okay, so what do you think?
But most Sauvignon Blancs in New Zealand are relatively inexpensive. Mm-hmm. So you'll find them, this is a half bottle. So obviously it's a kind of a half price from $7.50, but you can usually find it under $20 for for a 750 milliliter bottle.
So how is New Zealand able to produce this at a lower price, at high quality? Is it that they have free health insurance and they can subsidize their winemaking?
I should ask the Kiwis about that. I'm not sure that was a factor.
Are they oppressing Tongans, or how does this?
I don't think they like being called Kiwis too.
They have extraordinary growing conditions, right? They're on this island. They have so
they're set up for easy home runs.
Yeah, they get so much sunshine there, and then the cooling influence off the Pacific that rolls in and cools down the berries at nighttime. They just have like perfect growing conditions on those islands to be able to make world-class wines. So there are some areas of the islands that make different varieties better, but in Marlborough, where this wine comes from, is just perfect for Sauvignon Blanc growing. And so even the value-driven ones, I find they still give this world-class expression.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yep.
I'm gonna go for number 2. That was pretty freaking amazing.
Something else to try is like the train wreck of the other side of it, right? To say like, if that works successfully, let's try some Parmesan cheese and just figure out how this works not at all.
Yeah, I've gone down that route before, but I'll try it again.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like it really hones down the importance of this working well when you have something else that doesn't work well, and you're like, oh, that's really not as pleasant.
Before I try the Parmesan, what I remember when clashing these flavors, you get like this harsh Parmesan it's I don't know, it's like almost it's sharp. I would say I don't know how to describe these flavors, but I know that I don't like it when white wine hits it. It's like a harsh and then a harsh. It doesn't blend. It doesn't blend like that goat cheese and this white wine.
Yeah. The Parmesan is almost like granular. Like when you start to break it apart, it's like you break it into like these coarse morsels. Where the goat cheese, you spoke about it earlier, it gets like really creamy. And so it's about the structure of this wine, and that's what it has. Does it have like the tools in which to deal with all those coarse morsels, or is it looking for that creaminess that has some acidity in it? So I'm going to try some of the wine here and then experience the train wreck.
It's a train is wrecking.
Yeah, like those flavors have nothing to do with each other. I'm only thankful that the wine is so acidic that washed away those morsels and didn't really get a chance for me to experience them working together.
I mean, this is really making Parmesan sound like a bad guy.
Oh, wait. Just wait till we get into the big reds.
So Parmesan works well with red? Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of combination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything on this board has been brought for a reason that goes with one of the wines. And then, so I think it's just a cool tool to try the ones that were brought for the wrong wines, to see how much that doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a little experiment.
There's a legit thing to pairing.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you think, Emmett? From the goat's cheese to the Parmesan with the white wine.
Well, I like Parmesan, so it's hard for me to say it's bad, but there was a very pleasant mouthfeel at the end of the goat cheese cracker.
For
I had a kind of an extended, a little bit of that pucker with the creaminess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was kind of, because I've known you for so long, I was expecting, just because I'm used to your palate of food. So I was expecting really for you not to like really notice that, just because I'm so used to, we go out to eat a lot. And
see, I wouldn't have noticed it without all of this education and thoughtfulness and patience that we're doing, right? So normally I would shovel a mouthful of hamburger helper in and enjoy the salty, noodly gravy.
But see, even with hamburger helper, like you and me both enjoy hamburger helper, or many people do.
There's a best wine for hamburger helper.
But the amount of time, but I would argue that the amount of time that you enjoy hamburger helper on your tongue, it could be on any foods. It doesn't have to be wine or cheese or, so I guess I'm almost surprised that you're taking the time to see the difference now, as opposed to if me and you were just doing this regularly without Carl here, perhaps, and me and you were just standing near the kitchen table and testing it out.
Well, I'm also deliberately trying not to be an asshole.
Oh, sorry.
The old college try.
Like, I'd rather have a cheeseburger and a Coke right now.
He's like, well, if Carl just brought the basic wines this time, he might bring serious wines again some other day. So it's probably my best interest to play my cards right here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of the good thing of the difference between us, like I could play I could be good cop, you could be bad cop. So you could be open as much as you want, if you like this or not.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, guys, I have no money. I promise, I have no money. Stick them up.
No, I'm happy to try to experience this in a different way.
And I'm not trying to sound like an asshole. I didn't mean to. I'm not trying to attack you on that, thinking that you weren't going to taste it, but I just wanted to explain to the audience our history of flavors and tastes and foods and whatnot.
Yeah, so with somebody with a low sense of smell and presumably a low sense of taste, there's a much easier way to just enjoy food, is you go for the salty, sugary stuff. And, there's a reason fast food joints are all over the nation. It's because they quickly give you what most people want. Right. It's a salty, fatty, and a big sugary drink. And so there's something efficient about that. There are times in life when you want to get right to the point, and then times in life where...
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Like my story, I think it connects. My story the other day where I went to Ruth's Chris on the Strip. And Ruth's Chris it's a pricey place. I walked out like I think it was $90 one steak, and one side, I think it was.
Yeah, and so you probably spent on $100 per person.
Yeah. So then I ate when I ate the steak, it literally it tasted like they took a steak from the buffet downstairs and brought it upstairs. That's how bad it tasted. So I actually put a 1-star review on Yelp.
You might be getting a call from the Ruth's Chris legal team. They might be coming after you.
So then I got...
Just disclaimer, these are all opinions. This is,
if this video disappears, that big money got us.
But I mean, you've heard me talk about Ruth's Chris from years ago. Like that.
He loves it, and he loves steak.
The ribeye, the cowboy ribeye, is one of my most favorite steaks from their franchise. It's one of the best experiences I've had. So I was really upset at the location on the Strip. I put a 1-star review. The manager contacted me and said, "Come back for a free steak." I'm like, no, I spent $100. It's different if I would have bought 33 burgers at Burger King, and if they messed up one, it's kind of like whatever. It's like, this is a fast food place. You kind of expect that. $100, you don't get redos in my book. Maybe I'm being.
Well, you had very high expectations at Ruth's Chris because they're a fantastic, high-end steakhouse.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Like anything in business, that start out with an artisan approach, that you really want to make the best quality product you can, and you don't really worry about the monetary details that much. Like your goal is to just make the best quality product you can. Those things gain traction because it speaks volumes to consumers to go, "Oh, this was the best steak I've ever had. I love this place. I'm going back." Yeah. And then so what happens? It gets bought up by a large company, and then all the bean counters up in some skyscraper are saying, "Well, we need to cut that out. We can cut that out. We can make those frozen. We can make blah blah blah. We can package that. We don't have to make that in house anymore. We can go ahead and get that bought."
Right.
And all these corners start being cut, and quality goes down.
Is this the downfall of Sizzler?
Yeah, I would say all of these corporate restaurants go the same way. Like when I was a kid, I went to Olive Garden for special occasions, because you went to Olive Garden and they had that deli counter beyond the hostess seat that was actually a pasta rolling station, and they'd be rolling out fresh pasta, and you could watch it being happened. Now you go in, it's filled with like flowers and a pie maybe, and there's nothing going on except some guy in the back opening a plastic bag and going, "All right, there's a timer for 7 minutes. I'll come back when it's ready."
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's the difference between an artisan versus a cookie cutter kind of thing.
Does this creamy cheese go with this wine?
You can try it. You can certainly try it.
That sounds like a no.
I know that's what I'm afraid of trying it.
It's double
Yeah.
creamy.
Actually, it's a triple cream.
Triple cream.
Yeah, it's a triple cream.
Hey, so
Egger.
when I put the cheese on the cracker, I will flip the cracker over so that the cheese hits my tongue first. Is that
Any way you want to go
is
about
that
it.
crazy?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Same thing if you get like an everything bagel and the everything is only on one side.
I have just that bottle.
Yeah.
Just do another little splash here, and so we'll try the same
just a little
thing.
taste.
Try the same experience.
Do we have a time limit? We're at 1 hour and 20. Do we need to crank through items to ensure completion?
Yeah, we'll probably have to crank through the wine and the food.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't mind if we do. It's up. I mean, up to you.
Now that
guys,
we've
too.
kind of set the basis
I
of
don't mind if we get
these,
nowhere, really.
how these wines and food work together.
I'm seriously. I don't mind if we do wine the entire 3 hours. We could do crypto another time.
No, yeah, it's going to be wine.
But Carl would just shut up. We can
No,
get to-
just
get
a
to the
simple
fun stuff
accounting
here.
of number of items and number of wines times time. Carl's going to Somm work right now. He's sipping wine and chomping triple cream cheese.
So out of the
triple creamy.
out of the ensemble, I've tried 3 cheeses so far. We still got 1 more cheese, 2 more meats, and then 3 more bottles of wine. This is great for me.
All right. So what do you think? What do you think now that you've had like triple cream cheese with the Sauvignon Blanc?
It doesn't clash as much as the Parmesan, in my opinion.
Yes.
It doesn't work together, but it doesn't fight.
No, it's good. It's good.
What's
There isn't really any like I say it as a joke for like a train wreck, but there isn't really a train wreck per se. It's just that this is more successful and that is less successful. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What I would describe it as, and for me personally, it's just would I want a second bite of that?
Yeah.
Out of the 3 options so far, I would definitely go for the goat cheese and this Sauvignon.
I agree with that.
Sauvignon Blanc.
Perfect. So that will lead us into our second wine.
Emmett, do you want to try the triple cheese?
No, that one
I
does not
wouldn't.
succeed as much.
It's well, you already tried the worst one, the Parmesan.
Yeah, so now I don't
let me
need the
clear
in
this
between.
up.
I feel like you're tricking me. There's a trap here. I wasn't born yesterday.
No. I'm a person of trying to share experiences.
All right, so the next wine is the Sonoma-Cutrer Chardonnay. And Sonoma-Cutrer, and really is kind of a classic version of a California style of Chardonnay that is really popular amongst the cougars.
I love that.
We call this cougar crack. And they love the rich, full body white wines that just make them think of, like maybe some pineapple upside down cake. So all, see, this is where I get into like not alls, not definites, not everybody. All right.
Not all cougars are the same.
Vast majority of red wines and the vast majority of rich and full body white wines undergo a second fermentation called malolactic fermentation. And this is something that happens naturally. And if they don't want it to happen, they have to stop it. And so what happens is they're transferring malic acid, that sharp acid we find in green apples, and it turns it into lactic acid, which is that rich and creaminess that we get in cheese and butter, as well as milk and cream.
Wait, lactic acid makes creamy flavors. Creamy mouthfeel?
It is the sourness in milk. Okay. And so it is, if it's balanced with enough, let's say like heavy cream, has enough of the density of its fat that really overpowers the acidity in that example.
Okay.
Where let's switch it to the opposite, right? You have like skim milk. It's a bit more sour than a heavy cream is.
Okay.
Not sour, like, oh my God, sour.
Like
but even
that,
think like milk that's been turned, this is sour milk. And so that gives you that kind of thing. So the other thing that happens in California Chardonnay is they have significant new oak aging. And so this wine spends some time in a new oak barrel, and that brings some additional flavors to the paradigm versus that, like the Sauvignon Blanc is aged in stainless steel.
Are they charred barrels like a bourbon would be, or different? Not charred.
Let's find out. Let's find out. And
Carl's going to work with his wine.
So if you're going to have a charred barrel, what would you anticipate that you would get in an aroma?
I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Bitter?
Just in a rule-ofness.
Smoky?
Yeah, smoky. Exactly, like smokiness. Yeah.
I can't smell any smoke.
I don't smell any smoke either.
Okay, so probably not a charred barrel.
Yeah. And if it is, it would be like a light char, because there's 3 degrees of charness.
Oh, toast.
Yeah, exactly. There's light toast, medium toast, and heavy toast.
Okay.
And so it just depends on what you want for the finished product. The winemaker has a vision, and so it just depends on what he asks the cooper to do for the barrel. And so again, we take up the site. This one has a bit more of like intensity of its color. It's not as transparent. You can almost see there's some like hints of gold, say yellow and gold. Here, it has a bit more of like a deeper color than the Sauvignon Blanc did. It's not like crazy color, but we're just taking a moment to just assess it.
So we're in a studio setting with a lot of lights around us. Mm-hmm. Is it different when you're in a dark steakhouse?
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. And really, like the assessment for wine, the way that we're doing it is more in a professional sense. Yeah. So if I'm going to do a blind tasting for the Court of Master Sommeliers and it's an exam, I've got 4 minutes and 15 seconds in which to appreciate this wine. Whoa. And at the end of that 4 minutes, I have to tell you, like the variety, where it's from, what like country of origin, like if I can.
Wow.
Exactly. I have to be able to determine all of those things in a 4 minute period. So the sight, being able to just get a sense of the color, is only like maybe 15 seconds of those. Right. Yeah. So it's a small amount of you being able to experience this is just to assess the color.
That's one of your clues.
Right. Right.
Where do they come up with 4:15? Is that a metric thing?
You get 25 minutes to taste 6 wines.
Okay.
And so that's divided by, yeah.
Lim's going ham on the cheese. No, that's not a good expression. Lim's going to town on the cheese.
I'm just guessing. I don't even know. I'm guessing from the smell flavor of this that's going to go well.
Yep. Yep, exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
So I'm choosing, you called this the triple cheese earlier?
It's a triple cream.
Triple cream.
Yeah, it's triple cream cheese. And
I'm just guessing.
Exactly. So those notes of malolactic fermentation will really show through on a cheese like this that has got a lot of richness. But first, I just want to experience it by itself. And
I almost don't know how to describe why I felt that these two will go together. I mean, there's something like this one. Like, man, how would I describe it?
It's because you're a natural, man.
Well, no, but you tasted the cheese earlier a little bit, so you've already got a sense of what the cheese was like. And then just getting a sense of this, you're like, in a way, this almost smells like a dairy farm. Like the cheese.
Oh, no, I actually did sense that. I did sense.
You know, it was a little bit of like, I can pick up this like dairy farm where this cheese comes from. And then something about this wine almost kind of smells like it's from like a dairy farm or an agricultural farm.
They do grow a lot of cows in California.
But so for Chardonnay, you typically will have, I'd say more notes of like the citrus, like in tree fruits, like apples and pears. And then like if it gets to a really warm climate, it starts to go into stone fruits and tropical fruits, like some peaches and some pineapples. So that's a difference between if you grow Chardonnay in Oregon versus Chardonnay that you grew down like in the Central Coast. You know, you're going to have much more tropicalness in the Central Coast, where up in Oregon, it's more tart and crisp and refreshing. So you get more of like those lime and lemons and more of the crisp apples.
Is there a weird bitterness for you guys in the middle of that cream cheese bite? Or is that just me?
I'm going to say no, but I would say no.
Might be my own bitterness. Just coming through.
If I
started thinking about wealth inequality, and it really went down the wrong way.
If I had to describe this Chardonnay, Chardonnay with that triple cream, the blending. I love the blending of the goat cheese with the Sauvignon Blanc. Did I say that right?
Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauvignon Blanc. This Chardonnay with the triple cream is good, but it's not as good as the goat cheese with the Sauvignon Blanc. But it does have it. The Sauvignon does this a little bit of almost a magical fusion with the goat cheese. This Chardonnay it doesn't fuse, but it doesn't fight. And they're both, you could taste both, and it's nice. That's how I would describe it.
Where does the proletariat find triple cream cheese, can you go to Whole Foods or like a Trader Joe's or a Sprouts?
Yeah, it's available in your local
And literally,
cheesemonger area. Yeah.
is it akin to cream cheese or is it a whole different thing? A triple cream cheese?
Yeah, no, it's more akin to like a brie.
Okay,
Yeah, it's more like a style of cheese in France.
so go to the brie section and look for a triple cream cheese nearby. Okay,
And in fact, you're actually on to something that is it's really perceptive of you in that this is a style of cheese that really grown up around like the hillsides in France. So a French Chardonnay would serve it better than a California Chardonnay that didn't really grow up around this style of cheese in its area.
so literally,
The
if you
cheese
can
almost gives me a
avoid,
funk, where this wine doesn't give me that funk. But if you try a French Chardonnay, it has that same funk.
so literally, if you can try to avoid mixing countries. I mean, that's oversimplification, right? But if it grows
It
together,
sounds glass half empty, but otherwise the foods that grow together go together. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I like that one more. So it's
combine the strengths of the region.
it's really to say that
That's a better way to put it.
that we didn't have easy access to transport goods and services around the world easily for a long time, and so those things that just happened around their local areas happened over a few centuries, and so that's it just speaks volume to the way that they are going to produce those food and drink together. Where we're still a new country, especially to think about the established wine and food regions of the United States are still finding their voice. You know,
You're an eloquent motherfucker. You know that.
that's what I go for. Eloquence, motherfucker. Eloquence, motherfucker. But I thought that the buttery popcorn would also go well with this wine, being like that buttery style of malolactic. You're going to get more of the buttercreams. And so I thought the buttery popcorn is a really good classic pairing for California.
Good luck
Chardonnay as
finding
well.
French popcorn, assholes.
Yeah. Exactly. So let me try this out.
Carl's inhaling his popcorn.
This is
both
awesome.
hands.
What we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 cheeses, popcorn, 2 meat. Wait, actually, is this cheese? That's a different.
It's a Gouda.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
That's
Gouda.
good. Wow, you could tell. You could. Okay. 4 cheeses, popcorn, 2 meats.
Just has good memory, that's all.
I
4
was
wines.
paying attention at the beginning of the class.
Oh.
While Lim was handling all the sound setup. So would you sneak a flask of Chardonnay into a theater to enjoy with some movie theater popcorn?
Yeah.
If you're going to sneak wine into a theater, go Chardonnay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Because I mean,
This is the wisdom we've been searching for.
so many people sneak alcohol into the theaters, anyways. If you're gonna enjoy wine and popcorn, you might as well sneak in some Chardonnay.
I think you should name the podcast sneak Chardonnay into the theater.
That's not the only food they serve. That's not the only food they serve at the movie theater either. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different candies that you would recommend different wines with. Too.
What would you pair with snow caps? This just got whole next level, bitches.
I'll just throw in. I've tried chocolate and wines, and I have yet to find anything that, for me, that it fuses well.
It's a myth.
That
one of
it
the-
can or that it
Yeah,
can't?
it's one of those myths that like that wine and chocolate pair well together. It's absolutely horrendous.
I will jump back to something that Carl told me last time, which I mean, it ultimately ends up to what you enjoy. So if someone happens to enjoy chocolate and some type of red wine or something, so be it. If you enjoy it, so be it. But for the masses, maybe
Yeah.
if us humans have nearly the same palate of some similar palate, then I'm gonna say from my palate, I haven't ever found any chocolate that goes good with red wine. So hopefully 75% of people, you don't have to go explore it. But I could be wrong too. It seems like Carl kind of agrees with me.
So with sweets in general and dessert pairing, the rule is that you want the wine to be sweeter than the dessert.
Oh,
So
That's cool. I haven't heard that before.
yeah, so if you there are a couple of established wines in the world that actually do go very well with chocolate, but it's a dessert wine. It's a fortified wine.
sherry? Is that a different game?
That's a different game.
Okay, I take it back.
That's okay.
I retract the sherry.
But sherry is fortified, so it was good to jump in there and say that. Well, there are some versions of sherry that are fortified, but like the port wines,
Oh yeah.
wines of Madeira, And specifically a wine from the southwestern portion of France along the Mediterranean. There's two villages. One is Rivesalt, and the other was Bagnols. And these make what's called a Vendu Naturel, or a fortified wine that's been fortified with neutral grape spirit. But they use Grenache as their grape, where in port they use a blend of 6 others. Mainly, the one is Touriga Nacional. And so with Grenache, and the way that they produce that, being able to be a sweeter, higher alcohol version, actually melds really well with the bitterness of chocolate.
Oh.
So there are some examples that do exist. You just never see them and never hear anybody talk about it, which is a shame.
So
but I like to recommend some port wine.
You got to find some port
wine
to put into your flask to go into have snow caps with.
Yeah.
I actually have a good question. If you're going to do nachos, because that's where we're eating crackers with cheese. So a nacho is a cracker with a plastic cheese and jalapenos, right?
Is there spiciness involved? You have jalapenos going on?
Yeah, let's throw some jalapenos on that bitch.
Okay. So I would look towards. So if I'm in, so my first thought is Riesling. Sweetness contrasts the spiciness that helps extinguish that heat on your palate.
Mm-hmm.
With something as rich as nachos with that heavy cheese, you're going to want a richer style of Riesling in which to be able to match the richness of it. And so when I think about Germany being one of the coldest climates in the world in which to produce it, it's a difficult thing to pick a German Riesling in which to find it. You'd really want a...
Is that the home of Riesling? Is that a German word?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And...
does it sound totally different when they say it?
Riesling. Riesling. Gewürztraminer. Yeah.
He had to open his throat to try to do that.
He had to turn into a German character first.
Riesling. Yeah. Riesling.
Good thing it wasn't Hitler.
Sorry,
that was a bad joke.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But in Germany, they have such a difficulty ripening grapes. They actually grade their wines on the ripeness level that was able to be obtained.
Ah,
And,
okay.
Yeah, and so when we think about like late harvest or like a late ripened style, that would have, I'd say, less acidity and more sugar, and then that more potential sugar could be higher alcohol and more richness. So you'd want a late harvest style of Riesling. In Germany, they call this Spätlese. There's another, there's another layer a little bit further called Auslese. And so these are these are late harvest and then this later harvest. And then there's even more stages after that can give you like dessert wines that are crazy. But I think for nachos, I would go with a Spätlese or an Auslese version of Riesling from a warmer climate in Germany, like the Nahe or the Pfalz. So it's
I'm guessing this. Yeah. So the butter from this popcorn, I feel like it does start to blend with this Chardonnay pretty well, but the butter's almost too strong for this Chardonnay. So they're jumping to the nacho thing. Maybe the nacho's even stronger than this butter.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying, but picking a full, maybe is that called a full bodied or more of a bodied wine?
Richer.
Yeah.
For rich people.
Yeah.
Does Riesling have to be in Germany?
No.
You can grow Riesling outside of Germany.
Yes.
Okay. Das ist gut.
Das ist gut, yeah.
Well, not for Germany.
Mainly we have Riesling that's grown in Washington, up in Canada, up in upstate New York, like you spoke about earlier, in the Finger Lakes region. There's Riesling grown in Australia, in Clare Valley, as well as Eden Valley. And then little pockets all over the world, little pockets.
You gotta be careful not to piss off Germany. They'll get a little hanky if
yeah, they've been known to rise a stink, haven't they? Yeah, they've been known to raise a stink. But no, it's actually like for sommeliers, Riesling is one of the most incredible grapes. It's grown in a range of styles, and they're all just incredible. They give they show the typicity of the variety. They have a long finish. They speak to the place that they're grown, and which is really amazing. And they're also the most undervalued wines in the world that you can find. Me personally, I can find 50-year-old Rieslings for under $100.
50-year-old Riesling, wow.
Yeah, a 50-year-old that's been stored at the domain or like the winery itself, and it's been in perfect condition, and they can come to me and we can taste some world-class Riesling that will blow your mind.
I hate derailing you too much too often, but I think for the average listener, is there a value to aging wine? Is there a thing where an older wine is in some way better than a fresh wine? What is it doing in the bottle while it's hanging out on a shelf?
So think
somewhere?
And so think about what we just did by trying to swirl the wine in our glass. We're trying to advance the aging process.
Okay.
Right? Like wine is trying to turn into vinegar just naturally. Right? So if you would allow it to do that, that's what it would do.
I dislike vinegar generally.
It's not the best thing to put on your palate.
Yeah, unless it's a pickle. I'm down with pickles.
A shot of vinegar is a very difficult thing. Very difficult. So it's I don't know. I got derailed again.
What's that? No. So if it's in the bottle aging,
okay.
There's some process happening.
Yeah, right. So those compounds are slowly falling apart. They're slowly coming. Think of it like when it's first bottled.
Yeah.
The wine is wearing a mink fur coat, and when it's aged appropriately, it's now wearing its birthday suit.
Okay.
It's ready for action.
Right.
Yeah, in the bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like birthday suits.
Yeah. Birthday suit in the bedroom. But 90 plus percentages of wines that are produced today are not meant for long-term aging.
Okay.
So you can't just go to the store, grab the cheapest bottle from the bottom shelf, and then leave it in the closet for 10 years and come back and have a delicious wine.
That was my retirement plan.
Yeah, not going to happen the way that you might want it to. And the preservatives for long-term aging are in all of the structural things that we talked about, with the acidity, with the alcohol, as well as the tannic structure. If you have high levels of all three of these, you have all the structural elements to age longer. So something like what I introduced you to last time, like the wines of Barolo and Barbaresco made from Nebbiolo grape, have high acid, high alcohol, and high tannins. Those can age gracefully for 50 years, no problem. But you have something like from the Temecula region that really lacks acidity. It may have lots of alcohol. I would say alcohol is more of like a condition, the kind of preservative. It's there to protect against the elements. Let's say something happens to it, like it goes into heat. If it has higher alcohol, it can usually protect itself against that heat. It doesn't really protect itself as well for long-term aging.
I like how you just justified the alcohol, because most people are going into the wine for the alcohol.
Yeah, they're really like, I just need an alcoholic hit. Let me down this. And so if that's their goal, they're not aging the wine anyways, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason they're going to hold it in the closet for 10 years when they just want that alcoholic hit.
You're going straight to the Jaeger.
Oh yeah, hey, bring it. Let's do double shots. Let's do this.
Sorry, Germany.
Yeah, so right. California Chardonnay, what do you think? Is this good? Would you buy this?
I actually enjoy this. Probably isn't typical, I'm guessing. I really did enjoy the Gouda with this. Is that okay? Is that not? I could even taste it's fighting each other, but I enjoy that fight.
No, I think that's fine.
Certain fights I don't enjoy in my mouth. That one was actually okay. like say the Parmesan with the
fights in my mouth.
The Parmesan with
tell you what kind of fight I like in my mouth.
Threaten me with a good time.
I guess I call it a fight when two foods seem to be competing. Yeah. And on I don't know. I don't even know the terminology on your palate. It's competing and it's just not working together. The Gouda and this Chardonnay, they're almost they are competing, but there's something I do enjoy about it.
So there's a bit of nuttiness, right? There's almost nuttiness that comes from the Gouda, and the oak aging for this wine gives it a little bit of nuttiness. So it's the nuttiness in the finish.
So is buttery a term that is typically used to describe most Chardonnays, or is buttery the goal in Chardonnay?
I would say neither.
I'm totally off on that one. Okay.
No, it's just that if you're going to make a wine from a region that is known for buttery Chardonnay, then that's your goal. But if you're in a different region where that's not the typical thing, that's not your goal.
Okay.
Right? So if a cool climate Chardonnays, they tend not to have that butteriness. They like to have their crisp refreshingness because they're from a cold climate. They want to showcase their cold climate.
If there were three cougars out at a slightly upscale restaurant, would they want a more buttery or a less buttery Chardonnay?
They want more buttery.
And younger dudes.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. Exactly. They're buttering that ass.
Okay, I'm back on track here.
Now, that being said, there are some phases in the wine culture about what becomes popular and then what starts to fall out of favor. And we've started to see that a lot of the California Chardonnay producers are reining back in their style of oaky, buttery, rich. They're trying to rein it back in and find more balance.
It got too mainstream.
I think the girls are starting to get introduced to white Burgundy, and white Burgundy is Chardonnay as well, but it is higher acid, and it's a little bit like, wow, this is really delicious too.
Okay.
Why do I only have to go towards that?
Yeah.
And I think for a long time it had to do with the money being spent too. Like you could find a cheap Chardonnay. There's a bunch of them that are named after that. Like you can find like a butter Chardonnay. Like the name of it is like literally butter.
Right.
You know what I mean? So what do you expect that wine to be like? It's buttery Chardonnay. Okay, cool. But that's inexpensive.
Well, this is why I don't buy barefoot wine.
Yeah. Me either.
I'm not into feet.
Me either. And I don't want to be in the kitchen pregnant, right? All that sort of thing. Yeah. Oh boy. So that's kind of started to fall out of favor a little bit, and so it's just interesting to see how, like with the next generation that comes, like with New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is a little bit, it's starting to fall out of favor because it is a little bit intense in that grassiness, a little bit intense.
Yeah.
That people are starting to appreciate the subtleness of a French Sauvignon Blanc or the oak aging of a Fumé Blanc that comes from like Napa Valley, which is Sauvignon Blanc that's aged in oak barrels called Fumé Blanc.
For our listeners that can't see, Carl and I are having a wine discussion, and Lim's just eating dinner. He's plowing into this. He's like destroying the charcuterie board. That's why he hasn't said
board
anything. He hasn't said anything in a few minutes here. He's finding every combination to see. This is good. This is good. Oh, they're fighting. This is.
Yeah, because I mean, we have four cheeses, popcorn, 2 meats, 4 drinks. That's so many combinations. I kind of trying to guess before I taste it. I tell myself I'm pretty sure this is not going to go, but just try it anyways.
Yeah.
What's the worst that happens? It just doesn't taste that great.
This is a perfect COVID lockdown activity.
Oh yeah.
If you're gonna assemble a variety board and a variety of little wines and just try every combination.
Assemble.
I would say with the Chardonnay, the Parmesan the Chardonnay actually overpowers the Parmesan. Like you can't even taste the Parmesan until almost at the very end as the Chardonnay is going away. The goat cheese, that was okay, but there's nothing magical there. Yep. I actually almost forget. Did I try the triple cream? I forget now.
Oh, that was the first one.
Oh, that was okay.
Yeah, it was the first thing we tried.
I've just had to really restrain myself.
It kind of
from the
goes
meats.
not as well as the Sauvignon Blanc went, but did go pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Emmett's trying to hold himself back.
Yeah, I want the meats.
The thing at the steakhouse that we pair, like a classic pairing for California Chardonnay, is a Caesar salad.
Chardonnay with a Caesar.
Chardonnay with a Caesar salad.
Does that
money.
Caesar have actual anchovy in it?
It's not a Caesar salad otherwise.
It's a bullshit Caesar.
Yeah, right. That's a garlic and Parmesan dressing.
If you love Caesar salad and hate anchovies, then go look up the origin of the Caesar salad, and it will ruin you.
By any chance, do you have any suggestions on the type of cracker? Does a certain cracker go with certain cheese, or in this setting, does it not matter that much?
No Triscuits.
Not really. I think it just depends on what you like. I think it's probably more for this lesson to find a non-intrusive one, right? One that's kind of neutral as it can be. But if you have like an herb cracker and you have your herb goat cheese, and hey.
Oh, I didn't try that yet.
So,
No Oreos.
Yeah. Dang.
I'm going to try to eliminate every potential corporate sponsor through the course of this.
This video will never be sponsored. Perfect. At the end of this this podcast, I'm going to ask you guys, which one of these 4 wines do you think I sell? Because one of them I do.
Okay.
So that'll give you, I don't know, something at least to kind of
Give me stress. No, gonna be
I'm moving the goalpost a little bit.
Fuck.
You can do it. I believe in you. All right, so let's get into some meats and some red wines.
Yeehaw.
This is Rioja, and Rioja is a region in the north central part of Spain that's mainly known for growing the Tempranillo grape. They are blends of sometimes Garnacha, sometimes Mazuelo, and
It has the coolest label.
sometimes Graciano. Yes, very, very historic, right? Very traditional. This is established in 1877. They're the 3rd oldest estate in Rioja. The oldest is Marquez de Murrieta, and they were in, I think, 1856. But you have to think about also the history of Europe as well, because in the 1800s, the the most of the prized wine regions was Bordeaux, France. It had a major port. They were shipping Bordeaux around the world, and it was the world-class wine. So when other people would go to Bordeaux, and then they'd go to their own wine regions to establish it, it was mirrored or like mimicked after the wines of Bordeaux. And then so that was their influence. That was their winemaking style. They wanted to make as close as they could to Bordeaux as they could, but they're using their, like their native indigenous grapes. When you taste an aged Rioja next to an aged Bordeaux, it is very hard to be able to distinguish one from the other. They taste very much the same.
Gotcha.
And so you can definitely pick up some differences in a young version of this, but in an aged version, especially.
So this Rioja can claim a lot of the qualities of a Bordeaux.
Yes.
Go ahead, dig in, Emmett. I know you're waiting.
Well, I don't know which meat we're doing.
Oh, well, we're going to try them both.
Dig in, Emmett.
Yeah, you can see which one is better. But so this being a wine from Spain, the Iberico Ham from the front should probably be a bit more successful. But it's not going to be a train wreck with this.
The Iberico Ham looks to the average person kind of like a prosciutto.
Yes.
Very thin sliced.
Yep.
Almost a bacony because it's got some fatty veins in it.
Yep, very much in the same style. Yeah.
And then so these are both cured, meaning are they cooked or not cooked? How does that work? Is it smoked?
They are.
They're salted.
Yeah, exactly. They're salted and hanged and treated, but they're not subject to heat.
Okay, interesting.
So cured is cooked by the salt.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm guessing I think that's what I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's kind of like having like a ceviche it's been cooked by the acidity.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so I first wanted to just experience the wine by itself. What I notice here is a bit of a garnet color. There's a little bit of some variation between the core and the rim. And when you get a sense of that, you get a sense of age. Because as wines age, specifically red wines, the color falls out of them. And so if you might have had a young version of this being really dense and opaque, as it's been aged, it is starting to have some of its color fall out. One thing about Rioja, they have significant oak barrel aging, and they're very rarely done in new oak barrel. These are done in a used oak barrel. And this wine, because I love Lopez de Heredia so much, they are... they're required by law to age it for a couple of years in the barrel and then a couple of years in the bottle before release. But Lopez, being the, one of the standard bearers of the style, they age this for 10 years in the barrel before releasing it. So this is a 2008. This is the current release of this wine. So it's been aging in barrel for 10 years. And one thing I think about between Old World Reds and New World Reds is that style of oak aging really introduces kind of like a bloody, sanguine, dried, leathery kind of flavor to it.
Whoa, that was a lot of words, yeah.
Yeah. Where like something that is
what's sanguine? I got bloody and leather.
Sanguine is just another word for blood.
Okay.
Yeah, like a Sang Real, which is the bloodline, which is a sanguine. So it's not so prevalent in this wine per se, but it is more like, let's think about a slow roasted meat or a cured meat rather than a grilled meat. When you grill, you've got some char, which has some bitterness. And so that bitterness, you want some bright fruit to contrast it. Where if you have something that's like slow roasted meat, that's a little bit more bloody, and then you want something that's been aged in a style like this, that really melds a little bit better with it.
Would the flavors of a cooked meat be? Well, I guess the answer is going to be yes, but a cooked meat's going to be so much different than these two meats. Would you suggest, or will it be kind of similar actually?
Not as far away as you think,
okay.
But obviously not the same. Obviously not the same. I think that these two are closer to a slow roasted meat that's done slowly in the oven over a period of hours versus something that's on the grill that's been cooked within like 9 or 10 minutes. You know what I mean? And so I think this will be more successful with both of these meats than, let's say, our next red will be. But, we got to see. Who knows?
For your career as a sommelier, where would you wish yourself in 5 to 10 years? Besides crypto millionaire, so say crypto winter like lasted for 12 years. Where do you see your career?
In a bathtub of wine in Spain.
Right. So before the pandemic happened, I had signed up to take the next level. I signed up for the advanced course, and there's
You're master now.
no, I'm a certified now.
Certified. Okay.
Certified now. Yeah. So there's introductory, certified, advanced, and master.
Okay.
And in the whole world, there's only about 235 masters.
Okay.
So it's a very elite club. If you want to take the advanced course, because like when you go for the first two levels, the first one is an introductory course and then an exam that follows right after the course does. When you take level 2, they're testing you only on do you have enough basis of information from the level 1 that you've added to and built on.
Okay.
Right? So it's like basic like the theory of the questions for level 1, and then so do you know the theory? Cool. Now let's put the theory into practice. Now, do you know the theory in practice? Right?
Yeah.
And so when you go to advanced, there's another course. It's a 3-day course that you have to be invited to.
They give you the secrets.
Yeah, it's the next layer of exactly. They give you the like really ins and outs of all the stuff, and it actually goes much deeper into not just like understanding wine and food pairing, but it's about operating a wine programming, doing the profit and losses. How do you order and how do you put something on your list and what do you price it at? There's a lot more of that as well.
Hopefully, the ultimate secret is not add Coca-Cola.
No, although it's
not
sponsored by. Yeah, it's sponsored by.
It's probably not the culmination of that journey.
The other thing I want to point out about this wine that's unique that you're not going to find in most other wines is that this has been aged in American oak barrels, where the majority of red wines get aged in a French oak barrel. And so, what are the differences between these two barrels? And
the French ones travel in limousines.
it's so funny you said that because there is a style of oak barrel called the limousine oak barrel. Right? There's a limousine forest.
Wait, is a forest
in France
where they grow the limousine oak?
It's just for the wood paneling or for the interior of it. Yeah.
Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah. And it's a colder area than the way they grow oak trees in America. So they grow slower and they're more finely grained. And so with a French oak barrel, you get more, let's say, baking spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, the allspice, and a little bit of vanilla. In an American oak barrel, we get sweet vanilla. And so the vanilla is a little bit more higher toned. And there's also some notes of coconut and maybe some dill.
No caramel?
If it's charred, I think you're on the right path. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you certainly can have caramel notes.
All right.
For sure. He's like, I want a Werther's original wine. Let's bring it. So smelling this wine, are you able to pick up the sweet vanilla, the dill, or the coconut?
Not for me.
It's okay.
I don't have enough.
I think my smell is pretty bad.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, this is a subtle thing.
Lim's also
And-
pounding food, so it's hard to smell when you're...
You got the Asian glow coming after his 4 ounces. He's already like, oh my God, I'm going to be shit-faced.
It smells great.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like super subtle. It's almost like it smells like a York peppermint patty. It's super subtle though. I mean, it's just one of those things that like once you know, it sticks out like a sore thumb. But when you try to find it, you're like, I don't know, where do I smell this? I don't know.
I get a hint of leathery, but not in an unpleasant way.
What did you think, Emmett, of the two meats? Did
I
you
love
try
meat.
both?
Yeah, they're good. Salty.
Did you have one that you felt did the best with that wine?
Man, it's good.
Yes, the Iberico ham. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. It far surpasses that one with this wine.
Iberico, is that referencing a region or what's Iberico?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Ibiza?
No.
I would almost say
No, but I know where you want to visit.
They got good wine there.
how do you say this meat again? Iberico?
Iberico.
Iberico.
Yep.
This
Iberico ham.
by itself, I kind of wish I would have. I'll probably try a piece by itself, but adding that wine, it made that creaminess like just really come out. It was fantastic. It almost felt like eating like a super soft steak. I don't know. That's how I would describe it. It's not the same flavor profile, but that texture, a super like a prime rib that's super fatty, That's
Prime
what
rib
that
is.
texture.
Yeah, it's a prime rib. This is one of the style of wines I like to pair with prime rib. Yep, exactly for that reason.
I would sneak this ham into a theater any day. I'm trying not to crunch into the mic in case you're wondering what I'm doing here. I'm leaning away from my mic, but I'm chewing.
I'm guessing taking the cheese with this red wine won't. Well, I wonder if the Parmesan maybe, but I don't want to. I don't know. Maybe I'll try it in a little bit, but I'm guessing the Parmesan won't go that great with this red wine also. It's fantastic getting all this information from a sommelier while we're eating this. Like it's like a audio, visual, and taste context all in one. Like I mean, it's enjoyable just eating and drinking this stuff, and then to have all the context information, it just makes it more fun.
Yeah, they needed to appreciate it, and I think next time we should all be wearing lab coats.
That'll make it less
Be a
fun.
laboratory, more serious. And get the beakers and stuff. And get the,
Yeah, but if you think about it, even the people that are going to a high-end restaurant and having a sommelier suggest things, you're not sitting with them and talking them through it and discussing.
Right.
So they're missing that experience too. So this is really unique.
That's true. That's true. There's a lot of people who invite me to sit down with them because they're like, "Oh, please, I want to hear more." And I'm like, "I gotta go. Sorry, I gotta go."
So hopefully vicariously people can enjoy this through their.
Yeah, if they could get a platter like this before starting the podcast and join along.
So in your
Next time we'll
description,
blast
can you
out what
put a
they get,
list?
Yeah. I'll put a list of the food items, and each time we maybe start eating one, I'll even show that meat, that cheese, and the wine itself.
This might be a good time to grab a little fistful of nuts here just to try that. I think this will work pretty well with Tempranillo.
Nuts.
Oh, nuts.
Okay, I'm looking at cashews, almonds, walnuts, peanuts.
And normally I would talk about them each individually, but I think just as a, like there's a lot of fat in the fat and nuts, and then they have with some of I would say the skin, if you will, of whether an almond or a walnut is more tannic than let's say a peanut or a cashew is. And so I think just getting kind of like the mixture of them, you kind of get a full expression of all the different kinds of structural elements that can come with food on at once, and then seeing how this wine kind of interacts with all those individually.
When you said tannic, the same tannic from the skin on the grapes. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So the tannic probably comes from the skin on this guy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. Huh. And it's even more so in a walnut. This is tannic as hell.
Oh.
Well, how does salt play in? Because these are slightly salted nuts, and the meats are definitely salty. Mm-hmm. So when you're pairing wine, how do you think about salt?
You want a good amount of alcohol. Alcohol and salt really works out pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, I think the very first time I tried beer was beer and pretzels, and that was fantastic. The first time, like
the original pairing.
Yeah.
For me, to have, because I think I tried beer quite a few times. I tried beer a few times before, and as a kid, you're kind of like a young adult. You're kind of like, what is this beer? Why do people enjoy it? And all your friends are talking about getting drunk and stuff, but I actually was trying to enjoy the flavor. So then someone handed me pretzels, and I was like, holy shit, this really goes good together, beer and pretzels, because of salt on the pretzels.
Right.
So I think what you're saying with salt and alcohol.
A really successful bar will put out little bar snacks for its customers to enjoy, because as you eat this salt, you get thirstier.
Yeah.
And so you drink more alcohol. And you're like, I'll order another round. I got another round. So really smart bar owners will put little bar snacks on the bar just to have there.
Salty nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Put your salty nuts out there, to lay it down on the bar. Yeah.
Hey, while we're on crass subjects, no, this is different. What do you think about people using frozen grapes as ice in their wine? Is that frowned upon in the sommelier world, or is that? He's chewing a mouthful of nuts.
I've been rolling my eyes at the same time, so
he's having a small coronary because I've just
doing a heart attack.
It's too cheesy. I
think you know the answer to that, right? It's just an ice cube at that point, right?
Yeah. So, but white wines typically you want chilled, or is that not a thing?
So there are different suggestive.
There's a cup of water there too if you need it. Yep.
That's blasphemy. There's different suggested, like the temperatures that you want to be able to serve different wines in.
Yeah.
And so, if you're are warmer than the suggested, wine as wine temperature would be, then I suppose I would actually prefer a frozen grape over an ice cube.
Okay.
Because when the frozen grape becomes less frozen, it doesn't dilute the wine.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have an ice cube, it starts to melt, and then now all of a sudden you have a watered down wine.
Yeah, you're watering shit down.
Yeah. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing for ice and wine for sommeliers is that we don't want the wine to get watered down. I mean, like people went out of their way, and it was a miracle to produce this wine, and you're just going to throw some ice cubes in there? Come on.
You jackass.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're disrespecting the craft of this thing, right? And
You're changing the formula.
Yeah.
You're watering it down.
I'm guessing. I wonder with the frozen grapes as they start to thaw. Yeah, thank you. And it could change the flavor profile of the wine itself. So you might be messing with it.
Yeah. I would just think, make sure you have
So try to get the right
the proper
temperature without.
Yeah. Although one thing that I do professionally is that when I'm tasting white wines from like a distributor, and they will, it happens all the time here in Las Vegas because it is so hot in the summertime.
Yeah.
But they have little ice packs in their wine travel bags to ensure that the wine is cold enough.
Yeah.
And it can be really cold. And I actually would prefer to taste white wines that are room temperature because when something is too cold, it hides the faults. If the wine is not quality, if it's too cold, it will hide that. And so if you can taste a wine at room temperature and it is clean and pure and precise, when you chill it to the appropriate temperature, it's going to be even better.
Right.
Right. And so I like to taste things at its worst possible. And if it's still good, then you know you've got a quality product.
Yes.
Right?
Sounds like my relatitions.
Yeah. So it's been way too cold, my man. It's been way too cold. It's way too cold, Emmett.
Or maybe like spicy foods. Some restaurants that kind of rely on the spice just to cover up not that they didn't start with a good product or they didn't execute it well, and they just add on a bunch of spice to kind of hide it. That's what I've kind of noticed sometimes.
Yeah.
A winemaker will do that too with oak barrel aging. If the grapes are not quality, they'll give it more oak aging than they would have previously, and that like vanilla and baking spices will mask like some of the faults in the wine. And so, if like people say, "Oh, I like oaky wines," I'm like, "Oh, you like cheap wines," because it doesn't mean that you actually have a quality wine that you paid a lot of money for. You bought something.
There it is.
Crap.
I waited this long for you to turn into a snob.
There it is. There it is. Well, there's also another thing they do. There's oak barrels that you can purchase, and like a limousine barrel is like $600 for a barrel.
Yeah.
Now, the American oak barrel is $300. That's the big price points. You can get a bag of wood chips for $8.99.
So if you infuse wood chips in, you get a similar.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So
a concern that Carl had last time, and I think you'll agree with me. Just give me your answer right afterwards. He was concerned on the part 1 interview, which I haven't released yet onto YouTube, but
just wait.
Yeah.
He was concerned that he sounded too snobby, but I think you already see the way his personality is. He's teaching us so much.
Oh,
and
no,
he has a certain,
yeah.
He has such a passion in it, and I don't think anybody would see him as a snob in this like you're showing us so much, you're sharing this, and you enjoy it when other people enjoy it. So
yeah, definitely. It all speaks back to that moment when that guy was like, no, Carl, you got to grab a glass, right? He changed my life. Yeah. And so it was important for me to just to pass that torch along to others who can have the same experience and increase the pleasurability of their life.
Yeah, like a heroin dealer.
Exactly right. So, after the podcast over, you can step out of the car and we'll show you what other things are. No, just kidding.
It's a different pairing.
Just kidding. So, they say everyone hospitality is drug users. Oh, that may be true. I don't know.
Yeah. So I used to bartend for years here in Las Vegas, and I was in the USBG. So it's a U.S. Bartenders Guild. So there's a lot of similar crossover of concepts, and even just knowing something about limousine oak, knowing that it exists is from that experience. But as a bartender, I always approached it at, especially in Vegas, because in Vegas, people come here to party and get wild and go apeshit. So I'm not going to expect everybody to be refined, especially at 3 a.m. If you want 2 Bud Lights and a Fireball, I'll give you 2 Bud Lights and a Fireball. Let's do it. Like, that's appropriate for the moment. So in a fine dining setting, you're reaching for some another level of experience, I guess.
I think for me,
exactly right. Yeah.
something that I'm finding really interesting now as a learning experience with wine. The problem that I think I just discovered is
like right now during this podcast.
Sort of, yeah.
Shit.
Problem that I've caused on myself when I do a ribeye at home and I try to pair it with wine. I think the problem that I'm trying to do is I'm chasing that ultimate feeling of the tannins and everything. But by doing that, I'm afraid of the temperature of the ribeye, and I'm not taking my time. I think I'm rushing through everything to try to get it right. What I'm really enjoying right now is just taking the time and taste the wine, taste the meat, taste the cheese, and I think there's something enjoyable in that.
You could save yourself a lot of effort with Iberico Ham.
No. I think you said it earlier, Emmett, really well. You said the thoughtfulness, right? Like just giving yourself to have some thoughts about what you're doing rather than I have a meal, I'm hungry, got to shovel it in so I can get back to the thing I was doing.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's difficult
really
for a lot of Americans.
Yeah, you're just being in the moment. Like, let me just experience this and not rush back to whatever I was trying to get to. It's like speeding up to slow down, right? It's like racing to get to the red light.
Yeah. Well, for lunch, I had a Popeye spicy chicken sandwich.
Inferior to Chick-fil-A, by the way.
While I was driving from one appointment to the next.
Hey, look, I just did a corporate chill. See, guys, we can do it.
I think Chick-fil-A tastes delicious. I think they need to come up with a jumbo patty.
You just want to go there on Sundays.
That also, yeah.
Yeah.
They need to hire heathens to work on Sundays.
Heathens, right? Jumbo patty, you think it's too small?
For America. I'm sure it's fine, but our tastes grow.
It's tough to get those GMO chickens to be small. Yeah.
Go to turkey meat or something.
Now, what I do is I get the combo meal with the fries, and then I get an extra sandwich.
Would you get a combo meal extra sandwich? Because your patty's not big enough.
Right.
If you had a bigger patty, you would just get the jumbo.
And then I deal with my girlfriend going, 2 sandwiches? You eat 2 sandwiches? And then she's on a diet, and I'm eating 2 sandwiches, and she hates me because I'm skinny. I was like, oh, man, I'm sorry.
You see, everybody, he's a real human being also.
2 sandwiches? 2? Which is funny, when she watches this, she's going to give me a hard time about it. 2 sandwiches.
Does that really mean she wants a bite? Is it?
No.
Okay.
No.
She's like a super vegan.
I don't know about you guys. I'm not really against the sharing thing. Which is weird for a sommelier to say that because it's all about sharing.
Yeah.
But it's like when I have in my mind that this is what I want to pursue and I'm going to order that because that's in my mind what I'm going to eat and acquire.
Yeah.
And then somebody else doesn't want to order anything for themselves because they're like, I'll just have a bite of yours.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, but I had it in my mind that this was the portion I was going to receive, and now I get less of that.
So now you get 90% of a small.
Exactly.
Chick-fil-A.
So how do I cope? Right? How do I cope?
Yeah.
I'll drink.
That's the story for all boyfriend and girlfriend and husbands and wives, though. We just heard that from
true.
Christina and Nick.
Sure, I'm preaching to the choir of the world, aren't I?
No, you're saying women are fast food parasites.
Careful, Emmett. Careful.
They pretend they don't like French fries.
The internet's forever. The internet's forever.
We're gonna get culture canceled. Culture canceled here.
I'm taking one for the team. I'm taking this for a whole gender.
All right, let's move on.
Let's move on to a next wine.
Let's move on to this next wine here, and let's see we're falling off the rails. So let's keep it moving along here.
Move right along.
All right, so Whitehall Lane. It's 2015 Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon.
Cabernet Sauvignon.
Cabernet Sauvignon. The word
Napa
Sauvignon
Valley.
means wild in French, by the way. Yeah, so
like savage.
Yeah, exactly. This is a savage Cabernet. Savage.
That would sell a lot better these days.
Sure would. All right, so Napa Valley. We've probably all heard of our most famous wine region here in the United States.
Did they have a recent fire trouble?
They did. Oh man, those poor guys.
A couple years ago now? 3 years?
Just this previous fall.
Really?
Just this previous fall, we had bad fires. Yeah.
Time flies when you're Corona.
In the northern portion of the valley, specifically up in Howell Mountain in Calistoga, there is. There's a number of vineyards that were destroyed and wineries that were burned down. It was a tough time.
Bummer.
Yeah, for sure. Big time tough.
Is that primarily caused by drought, or what's the overall?
I would say yes, but then a mismanagement of
the forest around them.
Exactly, of the dried areas. Whenever it's not been cleared out often enough, it hasn't been like managed the way it should be.
Right.
And so I don't really contribute drought equaling the end of the world for California.
Yeah.
Because clearly the mismanagement of their forests that under drought conditions have allowed them to set their state on fire.
Yeah.
So
Problematic.
yeah, I don't know, but it's always tough when you try to figure out like a social issue or to create what's for the common good, and a state which are running extremely high deficits, and you can't figure out you get a pinch corner somewhere. So well, if you pinch this corner, you've just burnt the state down. So how effective was that?
Well, it's weird because they have high taxes, right? So
yeah.
How do you have high taxes and a deficit?
There's a lot of stuff going on with California that I don't know.
Management.
Bring back Reagan.
Yeah, bad management. And
Reagan used to be governor of California. Prior
also
to
a thing too, like whenever you have a program that gets a budget, it's in the program's best interest to spend the entire budget, whether they need it or not, so that the next year they at least get that amount of budget, right? And so like that in of itself, you can understand that's a really good recipe for government waste.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a skewed incentive. Yeah.
Exactly.
When I was contracting to the Navy base, we had our project at towards the end of the last month of that contract. My manager would come up like, "Hey, we got to buy any server needs that you got, any hardware, software needs, go buy it right now. We need to spend up to X amount of dollars." Like at that month, if it was 20,
whether you needed it or not.
Yeah. He said, if we don't spend all this, we're not going to get it renewed next time. So you need to spend it all.
Did you buy anything fun or just regular computer stuff?
Regular computer stuff. Like he would say, "Hey, we need to upgrade the server. We need to spend the money on the server. Well, we need to spend money on something that's usable." So then I would look at the server like, okay, I could buy 128 more gigs of RAM. Okay, let's just buy that. We don't really need it, but
And a case of thumb drives.
yeah. No, seriously, there was certain
Which,
stuff
Carl,
like
leads to your parting gift today.
Everybody gets a thumb drive.
Everybody gets a thumb drive. You get a thumb drive. You get a thumb drive.
What do you do with your thumb? Stick it somewhere.
out of the aromas, out of all the wines, this one is the most pleasant.
No, it's savage.
I don't know a better way to describe it. I can't describe the flavor or the smell of it. There's something that's smooth and pleasant.
Okay, cool.
Would you say rosy?
Okay.
We need words for our listening audience.
I'm terrible at my smell. Like I don't.
This
know
is
how
your
to
day.
describe
Be a
it.
goddamn poet. Poetry's back in. It's popular again.
I can't. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just smooth and nice. That's.
Does it remind you of like a dessert, like a blackberry pie of some sort? There's
You say that like we eat a lot of blackberry pies.
It's true, but I mean, it's like think about blackberries or black currants or black cherries, and then think about a pie and baking spices and that vanilla. These are fruit forward enough that it doesn't show the minerality of the site, and the oak aging that's new gives some of that intense flavor from the oak barrel. So you get bright fruit and oak notes, which are baking spices, and so you get fruit and baking spices, and it's almost like dessert in a glass. It's not sweet, but it gives you all of those kind of impressions of those things that you would think. And so when you go for wine and food pairing, at least if we think about the contrast between the last wine, this has more generous fruit character, and it doesn't have that extra leathery, bloody, sanguine things we talked about before.
Yeah.
And so what if it's going to be a grilled meat that has that char, that bitterness? This bright fruit would contrast with that bitterness and make a really pleasurable thing together. Think of if you were going to eat the char and it's so bitter by itself, what do you need to make that char really palatable? Well, you want to introduce things that can make it, all right, cool. The char and fruit, that together, that's like smokiness. Okay, cool.
Savage fruit.
Savage.
Char, savage.
Savage fruit. There's also, since this is a child of Sauvignon Blanc, it also has the same impact compound. It's one of the things in blind tasting we look for when we taste Cabernet Sauvignon is where is the pyrazine? Right? Can you pick up the pyrazine? And then this is like a stewed green bell pepper. It's not obvious unless you're looking for it, but maybe if it resonates and you start to look for it, you can find it.
Wait, so in your studies, do you end up stewing green bell peppers to hone in that particular?
All kinds of crazy things. All kinds.
It's like Rambo training. Where
I went to like 7 different grocery stores one day and bought every single different brand and style and the country of origin of like a fruit jam.
Fruit jam.
Every fruit, jam, jelly, like every preserve, like in the whole city. I went to every different store I could and bought everything.
Trader Joe's is representing strong
Everything
right now. In that.
Smelling them and tasting them and putting them on different things. Yeah, I went to town. Crazy. Yet, in fact, if you go to like the farmer's market, just going along and smelling some of the things they have there, or go to like a florist and be able to smell the difference between a fresh violet, a dried violet, and a crushed violet. These are 3 different aromas that can sometimes happen in wines. And so it's just important to be, you want to introduce yourself to them so that you're familiar with it and go, hey, does that resonate with me? Does that sound familiar? And so, yeah, I've gone at length and done some crazy things that anybody not knowing what I was doing would have been like, did that guy just walk into a spider web? What is he doing over there? That's crazy.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's say you ever seen that guy who like gets attacked by bees and he's like in a field and you're like, oh my God, what's going on over there? It's kind of like that. It's like, well, what is that guy doing over there by himself in the middle of the produce section, picking up every piece of fruit and putting it in his nose and then putting it back? Well, boy, we're in the middle of a pandemic. What's going on here?
Stop touching all the fruit.
Yeah, man. Did you wash your hands?
This is my favorite so far. Now, it is super, the flavor's awesome, the smell's awesome, but I'm pretty damn sure that without the other wines to build up to this situation here, if I walked into this as the first one, if you introduced this as the first one, I would have been like, whoa, this is too much. What the fuck's going on here? Right. But right now, after building the stomach up and everything, or building probably the palate, not the stomach.
Exactly, it's the palate, yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. And it speaks a bit more to what I was saying earlier, that you really want to start light in the beginning of a meal and then build yourself up to this. Because if you just order the Cabernet Sauvignon for your steak and sit down and have the Cab, you're not going to have that pleasurable experience of the whole thing. Like you really need to have like a little appetizer with something, like a crisp and refreshing white wine, and then go to a salad course, and then just slowly build yourself up. And by the time the main course is there, bam, like your palate's ready to perform, your stomach is ready to receive it, like the food is on point, everything is ready, and you're going to have your most just incredible experience then. Yeah, absolutely right.
So how would you compare this to a Merlot? Is that one of the major categories that's beyond this in the buildup that we've ascended through here?
We think about these grapes in a historical sense and where they're from. Merlot comes from Bordeaux, just like the Cabernet Sauvignon does.
Okay.
And so, with a red Bordeaux, it's a blend of 5 grapes. They depending on which area of Bordeaux they're from, they may have different amounts of different ones, but the main 5, this Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, this Cabernet Franc, Malbec, as well as Petit Verdot. And then the 6th one, which isn't really favorable and we don't see it in Bordeaux anymore, this is Carmenere, which is very popular in Chile. But so, these are all in the Bordeaux family.
Malbec has some connection to Argentina? Is that they have to come from there?
It is not from Argentina. It's from France.
Okay.
It is a French grape. And but it has grown really favorable in Argentina.
Okay.
Because it was typically a blending grape in Bordeaux, right? So mainly the wines are made from Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon, depending on which bank of the river that you're on in Bordeaux. And then the rest of them are blending grapes. And it kind of fell out of favor for Malbec because of the cool climate that Bordeaux was, and with climate change and the way things were going, it really became really popular in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s down in Argentina. It had no trouble being able to ripen there fully as a warmer climate. But now with climate change, we're starting to see some warmer temperatures in France, and so Malbec is actually starting to grow more in favor there than it was a generation ago.
Oh,
so we're starting to see
temperature is getting more favorable to Malbec.
Yeah, so they're starting to see that Malbec is a little bit better for them than it was a generation ago.
Climate change?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's more of a temperature destabilization.
Oh yeah.
but
an overall warming of the atmosphere.
I would like to say grand solar maximum versus grand solar minimums, you know, that sort of thing. There's more sun activity that's going on right now. And so, yeah, we're just seeing that it's crazy because you're getting spring to arrive earlier in cold climates. And then in the later portion of spring, it's starting to hail. And so if you get the vine to start to what's called the bud break and then fruit set, where it's starting to form tiny little baby grapes, and then you have hail come in and it just destroys these bunches, it doesn't get to reset the, like the whole season and go back and do the fruit set again. You've just lost 80% of your entire harvest.
Oh,
So we're really seeing areas in France, in the cooler areas, being devastated year after year. There's like 3 or 4 vintages in a row in Burgundy where they just destroyed 70 to 90% of the harvest from hail. That happens in like April.
It's terrible.
But they had spring come earlier than it ever had, and so they started to get everything started to go in as if it was going to be a warm season, and then there comes the hail and destroys everything. And then the prices go up, and the rest of us go, hey, why is this a $4,000 bottle of wine? You go, well, there's only 70 bottles made, and there's a lot of countries, or whatever,
The reason is my pickup truck.
Yeah.
This Cabernet
It's
Sauvignon.
Cabernet Sauvignon. We got to try it with the Gouda and the Parmesan. These are the
Yeah, I forgot about the Parmesan.
these are the two.
Is the other one there's a Chardonnay, and then what was the other bottle?
Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm mixing up. I thought, didn't we just drink this? I knew we didn't drink it, but I thought the names were similar. So the names are similar, but except for...
So Blanc is a clue to white, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
This is the mother of this.
Okay.
Over here would be another one called Cabernet Franc. So it gets the Cabernet from the father and Sauvignon from the mother, and it's Cabernet Sauvignon. Yeah.
Lovely.
How would they go from mother? Because that one's like or they're not using, it's not a red grape for that one?
Right, it's a white grape.
So-
I'm just using mother and father as just a way to connect as
Oh,
parents.
okay,
But
that's not actually-
there's no actual like.
Oh, okay.
This isn't a maternal thing or.
I thought maybe they
back-
crossbreeded grapes, and then...
No, it doesn't. Let the Cabernet has it's the phallus, and this has the receptor or anything like that. Yeah, no.
There's a stepmother involved.
Yeah, no. I'm just explaining it so that you can kind of get a sense of the parentage. We
you.
talk about mother and father's parentage. Yeah.
That a prince caught her on the stairway. It's complicated French history.
Well, that's how the Comte Armand started in 1794, and it was as the emperor came in, and
Wait, so
but there's a lot of stories like that.
yeah, I don't know if this is too much of a derailment. How far back does French wine history go? Is it before French Revolution? Is it before?
Oh yeah, it was brought by the Romans. So as the Romans, as they were conquering all of Europe, they brought their favorite thing with them, and they brought vines and they planted them everywhere.
Oh, the Romans spread wine across Europe.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Because it's from the source that we understand that wine comes from is Mesopotamia. It is from like
That is modern day Iraq.
Yeah, like Georgia and all that. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And these were an area that was much more fertile in that era. So it's a little bit different today than it was during those times. But yeah, they literally grabbed.
Understatement of the podcast.
There's an Australian grape called Shiraz, and it is the same grape as Syrah from France. It's just as a different name for it. But there's a city in the Middle East called Shiraz, and they think that actually comes from that city because it has that ancient name.
So if Syrah has a Z, it's from Australia.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Clues. We know stuff.
Yeah. Is there a way to shortcut what we did? Say this was the most enjoyable for me, this Cabernet Sauvignon Blanc. Or Cabernet...
Quit being so American. Just take your time.
You can also just cut things in short, too. Just call it the Cabernet or just call it...
So this like Cabernet is there a way to shortcut where we went from light to heavy or full, light to full? Is there a way to shortcut that? Because if I enjoyed this the most, is there a way to just jump? I don't want to jump right into it, but is there a way to shortcut the palate to get there?
Can we skip the foreplay?
I would suggest for you and your wife, if you're going into dinner at a place like this, and let's say that you want to...
you're talking about foreplay, that's what you're thinking about.
So let's say you go to Ruth's Chris, and that you want to have this cowboy steak, and you want to have the experience. I would suggest having a salad that you're going to share with your wife, and you can get a glass of white wine that you can also share with your wife. So instead of having a 5-ounce pour of white wine that you're really not going to enjoy the whole thing, how about a 2.5-ounce pour that you're going to have with your wife and enjoy over in a small salad? And so that'll just jumpstart everything. And then by the time your big steak comes there with your big glass of red wine, all right, now you've just I've kind of just jumped into it. Beyond that, I don't really know any way to kind of like jumpstart it per se.
That was legit. That was a good shortcut.
Right? I mean, it's like if you're just trying to figure out how do I get a small amount of this stuff so I don't get so drunk from it that I can't drink my glass of red wine with my steak that I want. Okay, well, how do you do something like that? And let's say something like a champagne, like a sparkling wine, where the fermentation is happening in the bottle itself. This has a lot of like yeasty tones to it, like bready, brioche. And so if you want to do like a fried calamari or fried chicken, it's a fantastic pairing with champagne. So let's say you don't want to do a salad, but you want to have some calamari they want to share. Okay, cool. Get a glass of Prosecco or a glass of champagne, or a glass of sparkling wine from California, or like a Franciacorta. There's a whole bunch of them. But just get a sparkling wine and enjoy that. And you can share the glass with her as well. So do a half glass of that, just enough to stimulate your appetite and get things started. So that way, when you have your big course, okay, cool. I'm so much better off for it.
So I'm guessing my question also has the undertones of American quick, fast, get there, get it done. So I'm asking for a shortcut to get to the full body flavor. Is there a suggestion on how to cause us humans to just slow down? I mean, the obvious answer is I tell myself to slow down.
Yeah, right. Calm your tits.
But my tits aren't. Is there something to tell
Science, bro.
I'm so glad Emmett is here. Emmett is really the trifecta for this, Oh, man.
Bringing the sophistication.
This is great. We have the host, we have the expert, and then we have the comedy routine. This is great.
Is there something to just
going viral?
Tell myself or something to cause me to slow down, something better. I think what we have here without what the luxury that we have you here to actually slow our mind down into what we're eating, what we're tasting, what we're everything, all the sensations of aroma, flavor, texture, almost everything.
I know the answer.
What's the best thing that you found to either slow yourself down or others when going through this? I think it's unfair for you because you when you talk about wine, that automatically slows someone down. So if I didn't have you here, how could I slow other people down? What's the best thing? Because I wouldn't know how to talk about wine, so I can't slow people down with talking about, okay, this comes from this region. You're going to taste these flavors.
Well, I think that you've already given yourself like enough credit to know that you know what you should do. You just don't have enough experience with it to feel like it's something that you can speak enough to like to catch someone in a trance with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so I think it just starts small and then you just build on it. Right. And so you're just saying, hey, I really like the way that like the meatiness of the salami really brings out the fruit flavor of this wine. And you don't even have to be very specific, but you can kind of just go very general, It's like, oh, wow, I really love the way that salad goes with that Sauvignon Blanc. Isn't it just amazing, like having that the herbaceousness?
I actually wouldn't even know how to say the fruitiness with I would just say, hey, taste this meat with this. It tastes good. That's all I would.
All right.
Good.
And I was trying to kind of dumb it down to you and just be like, all right, this is something you could probably say. Yeah, you could probably say this, like by the like meat and wine, good, huh? Cheers, me Tarzan, you Jane.
No, but this meat doesn't taste as good with this as this meat does.
Okay.
And then these two cheeses taste real good with that.
Okay.
I wouldn't know how to describe why not to eat this goat cheese with this, but do eat the Gouda and the Parmesan with this.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Iberico ham so much that I'd just be happy to eat that
just
with anything. Yeah.
So good, right? We should try it with some of the white wines later and to see if it's such a train wreck or if it's actually good. Because it has all the stuff you need, really. It's got fat and protein, and it's like that's all you really need.
Vitamins and shit.
Yeah. Some other stuff going on. I don't know. Whatever. That doesn't matter. It's just noise. That's just noise. I'm not really sure. I mean, you have to start somewhere, and you start to build on it. And so, I don't know. I'd say very often you can get the pace of someone else eating faster, and you want to get them to slow down. Maybe you have to be abrupt about it, Say,
oh, yeah, just...
You're like, hey, like, are you in a rush? Like, we're going to enjoy this meal, right? Are we, is there something you got to get to? Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to maybe...
I think...
if I could learn more about the wine and that meat, I think that'd be the quickest way to start talking about and make them slow down because you're talking about, the meat tastes this way, the wine tastes this way, this wine's from there.
There's another part of it that I've developed an opinion about the way that some people come into like the restaurant, and they say that we're in a hurry, we got to get somewhere, or blah blah blah, we got to go. And there's a saying that I've developed, and it's really not good to anybody in the world to know this, but it's a lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. And so just because that you didn't plan your day off like well enough to enjoy yourself doesn't mean that it's my problem. You know, so if you said, well, it normally takes me 45 minutes to have dinner, and I really want to have a nice long dinner with someone, maybe I should stretch to an hour and 15 minutes. All right. And so I'm going to make my, like the movie theater I'll go to is at 7:30. So I got 15 minutes, you know, all right, I'm going to start at 5 o'clock rather than 6:15 that I would have. You know what I mean? Like, just give yourself more time for the experience you want to have, and then make it happen. Just be more active in the approach of it, and then if you're going for a culinary experience, there should be enough for you to talk about. And even if it's not within your knowledge, like the menu and the server are going to give you all of the details and all of the words that you can use anyways, right? So, like, let's say that you're just going to say, hey, listen, I'm going to order this because it looks really good, but I don't know what kind of wine to drink with it. So, like, you think you make a recommendation for me? And they'll be like, oh, sure. And if they don't know, they'll ask somebody who does know, and then they can give you the wine that speaks to that. And then just based on what you've learned today, I think you can kind of go, oh, well, this is an acidic white wine. And so, boy, I really enjoy the acidity of it.
Yeah, yes, but I think I don't remember exactly like acidity and whatnot, but
he's actually drunk right now.
So remember in the beginning, we picked up our tongue and the amount of salivation that was there that spoke to the acidity. So if you can just have white wine you taste and you go, wow, I'm really like, there's a lot of salivation going on, right? This is so juicy.
Yeah.
Right? There's so much juiciness going on that it's like, I can speak to the acidity now because it's so juicy.
Like juicy.
There's so much salivation going on. Yeah, and we love the word juicy, right?
Juicy.
Hey, how you doing?
Or you can just go for every dinner, just put on this podcast and watch the same episode. This episode will slow you down to an eating pace.
Now, well, actually, there is some. I actually was thinking a little bit of something like that. Not exactly. If I redid this meal 2 days from now, these items, this exact wine,
Okay.
will my palate somehow possibly change on what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy?
Yes.
It's always better the first time.
That's what I was kind of. And also, when you have a Somm here, like he's making this invent.
He's
so
using his
enjoyable.
voodoo on us?
Yeah.
Actually, my mind didn't go to either of those things, but it's that's fair.
Stop voodooing me, bro.
That's fair. So really, like our bodies is a complex system of like compounds and chemicals and all kinds of different things that are going on all at the same time. So if you're not like as hydrated as you were today as you will be in a couple of days, if you had a late lunch and there's some other foods that you're burping up, you know, like occasionally, right? And, nothing burps like bacon. But
Wait, where did that come from?
I don't know.
Okay.
There's just other things that you've got going on in your system, then you might not have the same experience. Gotcha. So it's just always just hard to say you're going to replicate this, because I'd also say you have to replicate whatever you've done today and also whatever you did yesterday, you know. So it's just impossible to say.
Yeah. So I guess I almost like the idea of that more, because every experience is different. So even if you just enjoy, just be in the moment. That's really it. Just be in the moment. Take your time. Enjoy it. We are such privileged humans to be born in America. Have the salaries that we have the opportunities that we have.
Exactly right.
Be in the moment. Enjoy it.
Yeah. This is it. This is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here.
No, we're just missing a robe, a throne, and a crown. but we're literally, I mean, like a sommelier was what the king would have, in which to source his rations for any trips that he'd be taking, as well as to taste any foods to ensure that he wasn't becoming poisoned. All right, that was actually the role of a sommelier before in old times. It wasn't to be able to, exactly. It was the food tester. It was the guy that tasted the wine before the king would drink it to ensure that it was safe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it was the Cheers thing where they splash the beer everywhere, because if the beer, you haven't heard that before? Where if you've Cheers everyone and the beer is supposed to splash out, and if the killer is in that group, that beer will splash into his, and then he will die too. So he's risking his life to kill the king.
Right.
So this is assuming the poisons are fast enough to kill you in a few minutes?
Well, it wouldn't matter. They would all die.
Well, no, you might lose your best Somm. Like, I mean, you're not going to wait 2 hours to eat
I think they would assume that it would be like the poisonous reaction would be relatively quick.
Okay. So
and I don't think you would taste in the grand hall in front of everybody, and then just like everybody's like, all right, it's 15 minutes, we can eat now. You know, it would have been done beforehand earlier in the day.
What does that mean if he's shaking on the floor? Is that is that bad? Can I?
Is that
that means you order a double. Yeah, that means you order a double. Yeah. In fact, there's a famous champagne called Cristal.
Yeah,
You've heard of this, right?
Yeah, and rap songs.
Yeah. So the rappers love this one, and it's actually pretty decent. But Cristal was created by Louis Roederer, and it was for the Russian Tsar, Russian king, and the Russian king asked.
Still from France, right?
Right.
Okay.
Like the champagne is from France, but it was made for the Russian king.
Okay.
And the king of Russia was super paranoid about being actually assassinated.
Yeah.
And so much to the point that he thought his waiters that were serving the food were going to poison him. So when you look at a champagne bottle, or like a champagne bottle that is Cristal, the bottom of the bottle is completely flat.
There's no punt?
There's no punt. There's no punt at all. It's completely flat. And so that there's no way for a waiter to be able to hide a little bit of poison in that punt. Right? This is how super paranoid this guy is. And so instead of making the bottles out of glass, because glass couldn't sustain the pressure from the fermentation of the bottle to be a flat bottom, so they had to make it out of crystal, and that way the glass was strong enough to be able to sustain being a flat bottom and having the fermentation happen within it. And so that's how Cristal was made. It was for the Russian king about being afraid of being poisoned.
No thumb in the punt, blow out the bottom.
Yeah.
Crystal.
Which we love the fat bottom girl. Love fat bottoms.
All right, I'm going to walk us into the final questions.
Oh, it's just got like, it's like third round of Jeopardy when it gets stressful.
Carl, what is the best vacation you've been on?
Best vacation I've been on?
So you're the second person to go through a part 2. So you get the second, this kind of came up, the questions were new and I didn't get to email you the questions ahead of time. So
Sucker.
Yeah. So you'll have to think of it off the top of your head.
So the best vacation I ever took was my first trip up to Napa, to the Napa Valley. And
dude, you really are into wine.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm the real you do.
Yeah, I'm the real deal sommelier. Yeah,
you might have a problem, bro.
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse. I'm going to donate my liver to science after I die. Yeah, for sure. It needs to be studied. But no, I actually, at the time, it was in 2017. 2014. The movie Somm had just came out, and one of the stars of the movie, his name is Ian Cobble. He had just started a wine company called Somm Select, and it's a daily email offer thing where it's if you sign up for the email list, they send you a different email every single day that's promoting a wine, and if you buy around $100 worth, they're going to include shipping. And so me studying wine as a level 1, figured the best source to buy wine from has got to be these master sommeliers, right? This is the guy that's recommending wine. This has got to be the wines I got to taste, right? This blah, 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 makes sense.
Seems very reasonable.
Yeah, so I started ordering a bunch of wine from this guy, and I got the wrong vintage of a Bordeaux in a delivery. And so I replied back to the email chain saying, hey, this wasn't what I ordered. I got a different vintage. And they were like, oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
Vintage is a different year? Is that the right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, for the viewers.
Yep. Yeah, thank
for
you.
Listeners.
For me.
Yeah, thank you. You guys. So so any vintage is the harvest year.
Okay.
Not when the wine is released to market. It is the year in which the grapes have been harvested.
The year on the bottle.
Right.
Gotcha.
That's what they're referring to, is when the grapes were picked.
Because that's the year that the weather and variables affected the grapes.
Right.
Okay.
So on there, when you bought, it said the year, then when you received, it was a different year? Is that
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Like in the email, it said I was going to receive a 2010. I received a 2011 and went, hey, this is not what I ordered. So let me go back and see if I
Did
can
you know
order
that
some.
11 was a shittier year? Is
Yes.
that okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right that it is.
Nice try.
Yeah.
Suckers.
Yeah. So I replied back and I said, hey, listen, I got the wrong vintage in. And they replied with an email saying, oh, so sorry about your order. Here's a coupon for your next order. We get $15 off, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I replied with another email saying, I was really enamored by watching the movie Somm. I liked how Ian described the wines, and I have a few ideas for this company about how I think you could advance what you're doing versus just this email offer that you have now.
Whoa,
So
that's presumptuous.
yeah, it was a little presumptuous at the time, but I really thought that I didn't want this stale email. I would much rather have a video of him speaking, and I could be like, whoa, this is great. I can hear him talk. I can blah, blah, blah. I can really be enamored by the way that he describes the wine rather than reading it in written word. Right. And so like a couple days later, I get an invite to the Som Select launch party that's happening up in Napa. The same weekend, I'm going there anyways.
Wait, so you told this company that, hey, instead of your newspaper ad, you should do a video commercial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were like, you should come up. We want to talk to you.
This guy's onto something.
Yeah. This guy's not afraid to tell us we're wrong. Cool. I think he should be involved.
We've approached the 20th century.
Yeah. And so I had already made my trip to Napa already, and it just coincided with it. So I was like, wow, this is crazy. So I go and I do my winery tours. And at the party for this Som Select launch party, it's a Magnum party. Everybody is supposed to bring
Not the Trojan Magnum.
Yeah, it's a 1.5 liter, which is this is a half bottle, full bottle. Magnum is a double bottle, and so everyone's supposed to bring a double bottle in which to this party to share with others. And so at the time, I went to one of
That's got to be stressful because you're like new guy.
Yeah, right.
Like, how do you know?
And
how
I want to
much-
make an impression, right? So it's like you're going to do your part to get invited back again.
Yeah,
you know?
so you got to get a good enough Magnum to not seem like a
scrub.
Yeah.
So there's a winery that I was selling at the time. I worked for the Andiamo Italian Steakhouse inside of the D Hotel that's downtown. And one of the wineries we worked with exclusively was called the Celani Family Vineyards. And it's owned by Mr. Tom and Vicky Celani. And they were in the Midwest in the beer industry. I think they would sell like Miller Lite and stuff like that, but they had like a crazy empire, and they retired and started this winery up in Napa. And the Andiamo was good friends with them, and so we were exclusively selling their wines, and there was one of them was called the Tenacious, and it's a blend of Merlot and Cab Franc, just like the Right Bank Bordeaux wines are in France. And I was lucky enough to get a Magnum of one of their library wines from 2006. And so it's like had some age to it. It's been stored perfectly. I bring it up to this Magnum party, and people were like, "Where did you find this wine? Where is this? Where's that wine?"
You
that he
pulled the
brought?"
strings available to show up strong.
Yeah, like the rookie got luckier than ever, picking this crazy good wine, and everybody's like, "We never heard of this. Really, it's from down the hill."
Did you said that husband and wife? What was the connection there that you were able to get that from them?
He was Som at the restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant was in cahoots with the couple.
Okay, sorry. I missed.
Yeah. So when I went to that winery to visit, I had like a VIP appointment because I'd already been selling their wines at the restaurant I worked at here. So they were able to open their library for me to purchase a Magnum, where like the other consumers were not allowed to do that. So I was just lucky enough to get one of these Magnums that they were.
You got access to the vault.
Exactly. And they were saving it for the family, so it was like, oh wow, it's really nice for you to be able to give me something from like the family store.
Okay, you know what everybody's dying to know, right?
What's that?
Are we allowed to ask how much did you pay for this fantastic Magnum of super blend wine?
Yeah, I want to say $300. I think.
Okay,
I want to say $300.
That's super insane,
but it may be even less. I think maybe even less.
I mean, worth it for heading up to
most definitely.
At this point, this is the party of your life,
most
right?
Def. Yeah, I mean, this is a grand chateau on the top of a hill in Coombsville, looking out the entire valley. And there's all these purveyors and chefs that were brought in to do catering. There's an oyster station. There's a cheese station. There's all these different little areas. And there are master somms walking around all over the place teaching people about food and wine. And it's just,
so
wow.
You just got to eat $300 worth of hors d'oeuvres, and then you're even.
Yeah. Oh, my God. It wasn't hard. You're standing at the shrimp.
4 oysters.
Yeah, there's like oysters and shrimp, and you're just filling your face. And the guy's like, oh, so you brought the Tenacious? Good job, man. Okay, thanks. I'll be over here. Get my money's worth here. Yeah, and so that was just a really incredible pinnacle to be able to share this with these elite professionals. And it was funny. I'll never forget the look on his face when he's like, "Hey, so what do you do in Las Vegas?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just a waiter at a steakhouse."
Yeah.
What? Oh, okay.
Came in strong, man.
But this is when you already had your.
I was level 1 at that point and still just a waiter. And so I wasn't certified yet. So I wasn't actually a sommelier. I just showed up to this party with a bottle of wine. I was a waiter from Las Vegas that had an idea about getting a different kind of email.
Looking back. Oh, go ahead, finish.
Yeah. So me personally, I wasn't received well. I would say the wine was received much. I would say much better than I was. which also speaks to kind of the douchebaggery of sommeliers.
Did you?
You know, yeah.
So I think this is fascinating for the listeners. Is the story of a regular dude showing up at a super awesome wine party?
Yeah.
It says total fish out of water, right? So
I didn't know anybody.
Did you dress up for this occasion? Did you have the right attire, or
I was suited and booted? Yeah.
Yeah. So did you fit in
I
pretty
was suited.
well? Or?
Yeah. Everybody was, with Napa Valley, like professional wear.
Okay.
With the spring dresses and all that. Yeah.
Nice.
Did they snooty you kind of out of the picture in essence? Like, were they talking in their groups and kind of pushing you out? Did you feel that?
I mean, anytime you go to a party, you can figure out who the big players are and who the up and comers are and who the ones that are a little bit like they're established and so that they are less willing to let people into their circle, and other ones that are still up and coming that are trying their best to be noticed. So you just got in with those that are trying to be noticed, and you try to mesh with them. So they were
just turned into a big social hierarchy experiment here.
Yeah, I met a few people I still know today.
Nice.
That are they're wine distributors in California or that sort of things. They own distribution companies, or Ian's father and I actually talk on Facebook more often than I do with Ian, because I got along with his father much more as the guy from the outside of it, thinking about this young guy who's trying to get into the wine world. That was what his son did.
Right.
So for me trying to do that, he was like, "Oh, cool! It's like talking to my younger son again." So it was kind
I
of
liked my son better before.
yeah, I think he did. I really think he did. I really think he did when he was like aspiring to be a sommelier rather than an established one. I think, it seemed to me that it was kind of like, all right, he's going off his thing. He'll catch his roots eventually. But I'd say that's probably my favorite vacation. I did it by myself, which is interesting, and I stayed for 3 nights in San Francisco and 3 nights up there in Napa. And like each night that I was eating and dining, I had done like a tasting menu at some restaurant. So like every night was 8 to 14 courses with wine pairing, and I was a drunken shit show every day. And it was awesome. It was awesome.
You don't want some chick along eating half your food.
There is I have a really famous as a Chardonnay producer in France from Burgundy that I love, is my favorite. His name is Pierre-Yves Colombory, and he started producing wines in 2006, and the wines are probably my favorites on the planet. And I became a part of a Facebook group that was called the Burgundy Geeks, and the moderator just happens to live in San Francisco. And so we had scheduled this dinner to be able to do a private dinner there in San Francisco on a Sunday evening, and everyone has to bring a bottle of this producer's wine. And so I got together with 11 other people. There was 12 of us total, but I flew to San Francisco on Sunday morning, went to have dinner, and then flew back afterwards. So to fly to another state, another major city, just to have dinner and then fly back afterwards, that was another one of like my, just feel like I've reached the pinnacle of success here. It was like that joke when you're young, we're like, oh, we're going to fly to Paris to have lunch.
Yeah.
I flew to San Francisco to have dinner.
I'm somebody. I'm important.
Yeah, I really did. And then but it was weird after the bill came, and then like the service staff's waiting for us to leave, and I like picked up my drunken pocket, and I was like, and I threw $100 at him, like, drinks are on me tonight, guys. You guys have a good time. I'm from Vegas. Vegas is here. I saved the day.
You represented well.
Exactly. I kept just throwing Benjamins at him, like, drinks are on me, Then they're over like, that's going to pay for parking. I don't know I don't know what city you think you're in, but.
Welcome, new guy.
Okay. Yeah, thanks so much. But that's probably my favorite vacation that I've experienced.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome story. Okay, next question. What inspires you?
That movie.
Psalm on Netflix. Netflix, right? I think.
Yeah. You can find there's 3 of them now. There's Psalm 1, 2, and 3.
Oh. Wait, what do sommeliers think of the movie Sideways?
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. In fact, when I passed my certified exam, the following weekend,
went and reenacted that descent into madness.
I did. I went and stayed at the Sideways Inn. I walked down to the hitching post. I had a bottle of Highliner that I drank to the dome. I stumbled past that little like the Ford dealership with all the trucks.
Oh yeah.
Stumbled right by him, right in the Sideways Inn. Yeah, I did exactly that movie. Like the weekend I became a sommelier, I did exactly that movie. I followed Miles to a T. I love it. Yeah, I love that movie. I love it. And in fact, I feel very much like that guy. Like I just got started too late in life and don't have any money, and I'm in my 40s and I'm just a loser. You know, I really feel like that is me. Like this is me as Miles. That's great.
No, you have moments of
Freaking love that
brilliance.
guy.
This has been a brilliant 3 hours. So
Love that guy.
Yeah.
Well, even listening to the movie Sideways, there's moments of brilliance that Miles talks about when he like very eloquently speaks about Pinot Noir. You're kind of enamored with it a little bit. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, no, we can't all be geniuses all the time.
You're right. It is a difficult grape to grow. Wow. Yeah, Miles, you're right. Wow. Jeez, I got to change my pants now. This is great. But yeah, I would say that the movie Bottle Shock is a big one too. I'm a big fan of Bottle Shock. It's a true story that happened after the Judgment of Paris tasting that happened in 1976 that put California wines on the map. That's a really good story as well. And so it inspired me that on my trip to Napa, I would go to Chateau Montelena and I would see the entire movie as well. And so that's a big thing. I think I would say what inspires me is that I suppose it has to do with like just like my moral compass, and is like, what is the kind of world that I want to live in? And I think I hold things in sanctity a little higher than other people do. And then there's this reason of like, of why we do things. And if we're going to do them, we should do them in the way that is appropriate.
Like you would never park in the handicap spot if you didn't need to.
Right.
Okay.
I'll have to add that I don't think Carl's just saying that to be on a, like, while he's on a podcast, just to say it because it makes him look good. No. Our conversations, we have a lot of conversations on Facebook Messenger. Yeah. And the thing that I think, if I remember correctly, the thing when we started talking about cryptocurrency, my views on how it could help the world and the decentralization of power, rights, equality, and whatnot. And you mentioned quite a few times, like, the way I describe it really connects with you. And as the days go by, I see exactly what you're saying when you said that a moral compass. You really do mean it. Yeah,
it's a thing that struck me about the way that you introduced the proof of consensus, having be able to vote on the blockchain in which to make things a better system for everyone that's involved. That is a really it's a really attractive concept to me. That to be able to take the power away from those who have the most and to give it an equal share to those who have the least, and they each have a voice. And the other part that I really like is like when you said like, let's say if we view an insurance company and like have the third party arbiter who was hired by the company itself in which to benefit the company. So then the person who's the insured is just getting screwed and they don't really have a voice in this. Yep. But if you start putting on the blockchain, then you can have the insured vote towards the person that gave them the amount of money, so that the person who comes next, they can go, this person really isn't in your favor. You should go ahead and suggest it to be someone else.
Yeah, a third party, unbiased auditor.
And so in a long enough timeline, the only people that get the work are those unbiased adjusters, so that everyone gets a fair shake. And it isn't driven by anything more than the equal and fair opportunity, and that just speaks volumes to me. That's a beautiful thing.
You dummies! Nice guys finish last.
Yep, I know.
That
we
too.
We could see Dogecoin, and it's we know that's the year of the meme coin. It's the year of the meme.
Yeah,
it's the year of the meme.
You got 4 more questions, so if you want to try to plow through it or.
Talk faster, you idealistic schlub.
Sorry. These questions aren't short either.
I suppose you help poor people too.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night? What thoughts do you often ponder about?
Depends how much you drink. A bottle of wine will put you to bed.
Yeah, it certainly helps you sleep like a baby. Not much keeps me up at night, to be honest. I would say anything that would be the anxiety of having to being able to wake earlier than normal, and so I think that would be the only thing that would hinder it. But for the most part, I'm pretty content with who I am. And
wait, so having to get up early, ironically, makes it hard for you to sleep?
If it's earlier than usual, so that I have to put thought towards it.
Then like if you got to get up at 5 a.m. for a
then I'm just like, I gotta get up at 5.
For a court date,
man. I gotta get up at 5. I gotta get up at 5. 5.
Yeah,
5 o'clock. All right, I gotta get up.
Or ideally, you just want to pass out, but you can't
exactly
because you're stressed out about getting up early.
Yeah. And so I don't know if that's the insightful journey that you were hoping I would lead you on, but that's kind of the quick answer.
No, I want to know why you're having these court dates all the time.
Well, they keep calling me for jury duty. I mean, I'm such a sound guy with a moral compass. They're like, he's the unbiased juror. I mean,
I go past my moral compass and I use an excuse to skip those.
He's like, oh, I never got it in the mailbox. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea.
I'm on vacation again.
Yeah, again, I know. Hashtag crypto.
Not as nice as you think you are.
Next question, which I poorly word. I haven't found a way to word it yet. I'm sure Emmett probably knows a way to word it. At what age did you see yourself the most mature? What personality changes were there? And what were the factors that caused those changes? You got like less than 1 minute.
Do you run out of film or something?
No, I'm just messing around. We depending on
You gotta edit out some of this.
No, I'll put it all in. It's just a matter of if you guys need to go or if you guys aren't good on time.
No,
I'm fine on time. Yeah.
I want to hear Carl's answer.
So can you repeat the question now that I have
pressure.
more time?
Around what age did you see yourself the most mature? What personality changes were there? What were the factors that caused those changes?
Was there a day that you considered yourself mature? A day that you realized you're matured? Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I paid all my bills.
Mine's kind of close to that.
You're paying bills now?
No. When my debt was like handled, kind of.
Oh, but that's different than maturity.
It happened to coincide.
Oh, okay.
It was because of my dealings with how I felt about money, and then because of how I dealt with it, I was able to get the debt down. So it was just all in the same time.
You borrowed a lot of money to buy a Subaru STI WRX.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
No, it was after that. that was the immature thing to do, to buy an expensive car when I didn't have the correct funds or the salary to really facilitate that.
You used to be an American.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I think the answer to this question, I think for anyone, has to dig into loss. If we talk about earlier, it's like the suffering causes enlightenment thing. It's like when you have a security blanket, you're free to be risky. And when that security blanket is gone, you realize you don't have the parachute anymore and you can't jump out of the plane at free will. So I would say for me, it's when I lost my parents. When they passed away, it was like just grounding. It was so like there isn't anyone else I can reach to. There's nobody there that I can now call up and say, hey, I've got a problem. Can you solve it for me? I think that has been the most really maturing thing. Was I mature before then? Yeah, and there are other times in my life that I've had loss that also had advanced it. But I think when you want to say the question is what is the event that may be the most mature, that's the loss of my parents. Yeah. After I lost Mama Dukes, it was just like, okay.
That was heavy.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And even though for her, she had passed away of like older age. She had some health issues that had been ongoing for a few years. So it wasn't like a shock. It wasn't like she got into a car accident and was out of left field, right? Mm-hmm. It was like you knew, but at the same time, you never prepared for that phone call when the hospice director calls up and says, yeah, I'm sorry, your mom just passed away. Yeah. There's no way for you to have a basis in like, whoa, I've just had the pit of my heart fall into my stomach, and it really hasn't ever risen, I would say, to the place it was once before. So, yeah, it's a dark thing, but it's, I'm honest about it. I mean, that's really the thing that happened in my life that made me go, okay, there isn't any more parachutes. There isn't anybody else there to pick up the pieces if I drop them. So I got to be much more careful. I've got to watch everything I do now. So that's been very maturing.
I haven't lost anyone that close to me before. So to hear it in those words where it feels like I think I hear those stories from other, I would say I've heard a story like that from a couple friends, but it wasn't, they were maybe acquaintances or I didn't know them as well. And they didn't share that angle of it. So I didn't get to feel it. This seems like I could really feel it. So,
well, you have a lot of people who will tell you that you've heard over the course of your life that the people who have lost their parents say, I would trade anything to get back one more day. And you hear that when you haven't lost anyone, and you're like, I don't understand that. That's, you know what I mean? Like, one more day. What's one more day going to do? But then after you finally lose them, that makes total sense. You would do anything to trade for just 5 more minute stint. You know, it's just one of those things you take for granted your whole life, and once they're gone, you just go, man, I wish I would have done it differently. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember that story with Scott where he went missing for 3 days? I think it was 2 or 3 days.
You presumed him dead?
Yes. His sister kind of made me think of it more. That day where the police report went out for a missing person.
Yeah.
She called me. She got a hold of my phone number. She lives in. She didn't live in California.
Yeah.
So she called me, I think from Massachusetts, I think. And she said, I was the one that put in the missing persons report for my brother, Scott.
Yeah.
And we think you were the last person that he had contact with. Because remember,
she called you a suspect.
No. She's
You have a brother named Scott?
No. This was her, a friend. It was a friend, Scott. And then his sister called me that day that she put in the missing persons report because he was gone for, I think,
it's a couple days, right?
I want to say it was a couple days, but they found his ID at the San Diego, Mexico border. And that's what caused the whole, hey, why is he crossing the border? Or what happened? Why is he missing now?
Yeah,
so it expedited the whole.
Yeah, it sounds like a Netflix show.
Yeah. And on the phone, when I got home, or I got off work, I got home, she called and she said, if there's a body, call us. Doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m., just call us. And that's where it hit me. I'm like, she just said if he's dead, basically.
Yeah.
And that, to hear that words, it just hit me. So then that night, me and Emmett, we grabbed a crowbar, we grabbed a bat, we rolled out. We were just like, we don't know what
the two of us in a Dodge Neon are heading to Tijuana to find our buddy
Straighten
Scott.
everything out. Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't have any guns. What do I got?
Yeah.
We drove around to,
It's not a good day.
We went to his hotel room he was a merchant marine, so he stayed at different hotels doing his job. We went to one of the most recent hotels he stayed at. We went to his storage unit.
Yeah.
And try to find.
Well, he was a good dude, and he would visit us when he was in town.
He was he was in
port. So
yeah, super reliable person. You would never expect him to go down to Mexico, Mexico, and start partying. He wasn't that type of person.
Right.
He was
crying because it was so funny, not because it was sad.
So that night when me and Emmett came back, it's like 2 a.m. I think Emmett walked out of just went from the living room to his bedroom. He said, I'm going to sleep, guys. I'm tired. There's not much we could do now. Let's start the search early tomorrow morning. To see the despair in Emmett's face and the despair that I was feeling, I'm like, all right, good night, man. If we could get any sleep. I go towards my room. I close my eyes, and 3 a.m. there's a knock on the door, and Min's like, someone's at the door. And I'm so freaking tired. I'm like bracing myself on the door.
Because we just went down to TJ looking for a fight.
Yeah. So Min opens the door and Scott runs in. He's like, I need money. We're like, what the fuck's happening? What the fuck? And he's like, I need money for the cab. And we're like, what the fuck? He's like, runs into his briefcase, pulling out his wallet. We're like, what's wrong? He's like, I need money for the cab. He's really pissed at me. So sorry that he's okay. This story just it jumps like my heart was like,
I'm like, it's fun. It's like an episode of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, guess what day it is?
I'm like barely awake, holding onto the frame of the door. I'm like, what's going on, Scott? And he's just like, I need to pay for the taxi. I'm like, okay. He pays the taxi. He tells us the story. He had a sciatic nerve issue. He blacked out while he was driving, and somehow his body. He was going north on the 15. He blacked out while driving 15 north on the freeway. So his body somehow he exited and went back on 15 south. Like he had no idea.
Was he on some kind of painkillers or just the nerve?
He said it was just the sciatic nerve because he had it. He's had it for a few months or something. He's blacked out once before, and he was going to the doctors. They couldn't figure out what it was.
Wow.
Later on, they figured out it was a growth of a bone about the size of your the head of your pinky, and it was hitting the nerve, and so that nerve was causing pain and causing a blackout.
Also, there's good hookers down there.
Yeah. So while his search for good hookers.
Going for the donkey show.
yeah, the donkey show too. He was blacked out. And that's all he wanted to do. So he drove into the border, past the border, and grounded his car into some dirt lot.
I didn't know a sciatica would be the source of bath salts.
Wow.
Yeah. So now, long story to connect to. At that moment, I told myself if I could even pay a private detective at that $10,000, $20,000, at that moment, I was willing to pay anything to get him back alive.
Right.
And we didn't, I mean.
That's how ransom works.
Yeah.
yeah.
Kidnapping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Sorry.
Wow. Are we keeping you too late?
No. I'm
Okay.
my girlfriend's out with her other girlfriend for her birthday dinner, so she's
Freedom.
yeah.
Second
preoccupied.
Second to last question. What can you not live without, excluding water, food, health?
I know the answer.
Wine. Shit, I shouldn't have said it. You could say wine.
I could say wine, but that's kind of the easy one.
Yeah, don't say wine.
I very often in my life felt that my favorite invention was a shower. I'm a huge fan of just being able to just bathe regularly. I think that's probably one of my favorite things.
Why would you say you created the shower invention? Like, why would you put in that frame?
That the invention of the shower was created, and I'm very thankful for that.
You wouldn't want to live in a world without showers.
Okay.
Like India. You don't want to live in India.
Yeah, like that's probably my favorite thing I like to do every day is just be clean.
You take long showers?
No.
Okay.
Number 7. I have I'm a habitual person, and so it's just a pattern that I go through, and I follow that same pattern, and it's like met my expectation, and so I don't know.
How about bathing in a river?
This got sexy.
No, well, because I've been camping, so I've been camping a lot. So bathing in a river, sometimes you have to.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy that too much.
What if it was a river of wine?
There's some fountains in Italy that actually pumps through the village wine rather than water, and so the people go and they just fill up to the fountain and they swim in it and all that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's possible. I'm not sure. I think this is just kind of a bullshit answer that I've given just because I'm like, that's one of the things I've always talked about personally inside. Like, I'm really thankful for this invention. So that's what I think that I would.
Well, no, he's putting you on the spot. That's a hard.
Yeah, but it's like that's the first thing I just jumped to is like, I really value that. And so
came from your heart.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good answer.
This man loves showers and wine.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I can shower in wine, it's fantastic.
Last question, and I think this is interesting that you're into cryptocurrency. So normally think of this question would have been for someone that doesn't know cryptocurrency, but I think your answer will still be valuable. So if I told you to put $5,000 into cryptocurrency as an investment, what questions or thoughts come to mind?
I thought you were going to go with what is a Tron dog?
Are they still alive?
I don't know.
They probably are. It's cryptocurrency. You can't die.
They never die.
Well, I think for me and what I value in the space, I would ask, who is the team behind it? What is the technology? What is it for? What is the application? And then I would ask myself internally, do I feel like this is something that will grow in the space or something that is overgrown? And so I think those are the questions I ask myself now about any project. Is that is something I think could be adopted more long term? Is it undervalued? Does it have a good tech and good team? And so if I was to put $5,000 into something, I would want to ask those questions first.
Isn't it more important if it gets popular or not?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And if there's a famous celebrity that will tweet about it, then that's the only thing that really matters.
Okay.
The rest is just noise. Yeah.
Is there a Trump coin?
I think there was, but I didn't hear it go anywhere.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're not into crypto. Gotcha.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. It was a true pleasure.
Thanks for the knowledge.
Yeah, it was amazing. Thanks for having me, guys. I hope you had a good time. It was certainly pleasurable for me, and it's always good to drink good food and good drinks.
Cheers.
At the same time, so cheers. Yeah, thanks again for having me.
I want to do a part 3 because we didn't even touch crypto, which it's totally, I enjoyed this so much. So
yeah, this
was worth it. But we'll do a part 3. Maybe, I don't know if we do the same setup, which I would like it, but it's unnecessary. But if we were going to talk about crypto, we don't need this, but yeah, I wouldn't object to it either.
Wine
to
and
know.
snacks.
There's less that needs to be spoken about in the future ones, right? Like I don't need to go over the basis of how wine is made.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah, true.
all
Yep.
of that. So if it's just kind of jumping in and say, for today's wines, we're going to be enjoying this. When we talk about crypto, it'll kind of do like a flash version of that, and we can talk
Okay.
about
Cool.
other things. So it still can be done. I just think it needs to be
Yeah.
put in its place and then have enough space for the others. And I didn't really know how much time was going to be taken, but
No. This is,
like I said before, we had our 3-hour thing before, and it was like
Yeah.
all of a sudden the clock's over, and
Yep,
you're
yep.
like, what?
Yep.
Oh, it's over.
Oh, we didn't get to answer your question. You said there's one that your restaurant. Let's answer that real quick.
Yeah, there's
Hopefully
one of
that'll
these,
be a fairly quick thing.
yeah, there's one of these wines that are
Oh,
sold
man.
and available at the Golden Steer.
Gosh, I really love that last one, but it was I think it's really because the other 3 built up to it. Jeez. You have any guesses, Emmett?
Yeah, I guess this one.
I like that because of the label, but I don't think that's gonna. You have Is there a reason why you're picking that one?
Yeah, just the way Carl talked about it.
You're reading his body language, his words.
The words, yeah.
It's the only wine with a cork.
He seemed to have slightly more passion about it. I could be entirely wrong, but that was
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the flavors. Oddly, I'm trying to think what had kind of the best flavor. Which, gosh, that's such a. I really can't think of one, so I'm gonna go with the Cabernet.
Whitehall.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think Emmett is pretty astute. He's
I know stuff.
yeah, and I did say something about it in a historical sense that I didn't speak about the others. And it was like the 3rd oldest estate in Rioja. There was a little bit more knowledge that was going on with this
No
wine.
sales pitch when I hear one.
Yeah, yeah. So
I
there's a
thought
little
I
bit
read
more,
body language, but you're reading words.
Yeah, it's a little bit more like information about it. And I didn't really speak about, when was this established or when this was created or that sort of thing. And this was, I was like, I gave the vintage, I gave the grapes and the blend. I went up.
You did talk well about New Zealand.
Yeah. And it goes, I suppose I could go at length about the California wines as well, but that's just the way.
Only have 3 hours.
That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. That's the way the cookie crumbles.